Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Curse of Strahd, Twice Bitten, the show where 5 DMs take on D&D's top gothic horror campaign. I am Dragnacarta, as always, your host and DM, and thank you to everyone for tuning in today. Fun news coming up. Jack's going to go in a little bit onto this after the break, but we have. It's been a while since we last had an After Dark, isn't it? Proper Q&A.
It has been.
I missed it. The last one was before the feast. We've had so much happen.
Yeah, we're going to get into all of it, though. Every last bit of it.
Every little detail.
With our 24-hour After Dark.
Exactly. It's been, what, 7 episodes?
Yeah. It's been 8. It's been a bunch.
Fantastic. Let's make it 9. You know what? Let's just push
it down. But if you want no, I'll save it.
We'll get there. But man, that'll be an action-packed time. So we'll have more news on that after the break. But I think we're good to get started. So, without any further ado, let's get started with this week's Curse of Strahd, Twice Bitten. And welcome back. So, last we left off on Twice Bitten. After a sequence of exciting events in Kresk and meeting a new companion, the Vistani monster hunter Esmeralda d'Avenir, our companions set off to Tser Pool to the east, seeking the wisdom of the Vistani seer Madam Eva as they sought an answer to their question. Could Strahd be destroyed? And what, in their actions, could assist in such an endeavor? Along the way, they stopped off at an old tower by a lake north of the Old Svalich Road to acquire Esmeralda's wagon and other materials. There, the travelers met Dr. Rudolf van Richten, Esmeralda's mentor and a veteran vampire hunter, who had taken to staying in the tower, out of sight. There, he shared advice and knowledge to aid in Strahd's destruction, and wished them well on their forthcoming quest. Upon returning to Vallaki, the companions soon found that tensions had heated to a boiling point, with a scent of revolution in the air. The party split up, with Kiva leading a team to a local dress shop in search of a purchase for the abbot back in Kresk, and Erthrindir joining Lillison to infiltrate the Baron's manor in an effort to warn Viktor Vlakovich, the Baron's son, and escort him to safety. Upon arriving at the mansion, the party soon found it surrounded by a mob of angry Vallakians, terrified by the attack at St. Andrew's Church, anxious over a series of subsequent vampire attacks in the streets, and emboldened by the slaying of Izek Strozny, the Baron's right hand. As Erthrindir and Lillison ascended secretly to the attic to greet Victor and attempted to persuade him of the danger that faced him, Baron Vargas Vlakovich exited the manor to confront the crowd. But when the people refused to disperse, tensions quickly escalated. For a brief moment, as Kiva stepped in to protect a Vallakian from the Baron's savage dogs, an uneasy peace looked possible, only to be broken when an agitator broke the silence and the mob surged forward. As the Baron fled upstairs into the house, Kiva and Amity followed in pursuit to find and seize the Baroness's wedding dress for the abbot's purposes. Meanwhile, Erthrindir and Lillison safely extracted an invisible Victor from the attic into the gardens, just as the mob set the Baron's manor aflame and dragged the Baron and his wife away to their doom. After returning to the Blue Water Inn, the companions did their best to regroup. Erthrindir assuring Victor that he remained safe and that the party would help him find sanctuary with Casimir and the Dusk Elves the following morning. As Kiva drank with Esmeralda and renewed her friendship with Irina, who was now determined to seek out her past and see Strahd destroyed instead of running, Metreon spoke with Yeska, the traumatized former altar boy of St. Andrew's Church. Together, Metreon and Lillison set off to see what the town had become in the wake of the revolution, which the party strongly suspected had been organized by Lady Fiona Wachter. Metreon visited the grave of Father Lucian, paying his respects and finding a note left behind by a woman named Lydia. After passing Wachter House and returning to the inn, the party confirmed that the Baron had indeed been stoned to death, and that Lady Wachter had indeed seized power, with both new and old institutions within Vallaki's walls endorsing her. And so, that night, returning to the Blue Water Inn, the group shared in drinks and merriment, then headed to rest as they prepared for their journey the following morning. And so, each of you turns into your rooms, hosted generously by Erwin and Danica, the keepers of the Blue Water, with Kiva and Erthrindir turning into trance and meditate through the night as the others turn in for an uneasy but restful sleep, as Irina and Ismark ponder the paths to come, and Victor sleeps fitfully, awash in the sensations and memories of the pain from that day. One of you sleeps less restfully than the others. Metreon. You feel yourself falling in the darkness as slowly your eyes nod off to sleep. The comforting, faint flickering glow of the candle in the corner of your comfy inn room slowly fading, the shadows dancing across the walls as you feel the darkness of rest take you. When you next open your eyes, you feel cold stone beneath your feet. Looking down, you see the cobblestones of a familiar stone platform around you, tapering off into a dark, expansive shadow, a void that surrounds the circular platform upon which you now stand. You blink, and there is a familiar figure standing across the circular platform from you. Face hood dark beneath a shadowed hood, the hands concealed between these sleeves that are held together. Though you feel a shudder down your spine as you recall the cold skeletal features that you once beheld protruding beneath that dark fabric. As you take a moment to grasp your consciousness as the dream takes hold of you, you hear a familiar voice rasping from beneath the hood.
So, I can't help but wonder. I do believe that you might have gained additional insight into the girl's dealings since last we spoke. Might my suspicions prove correct?
A little bit, yeah. She admitted that she did pass on back in that house. She doesn't seem like she's one of them ghouls or nothing. She still hasn't told me who or what brought her back, but I think it's just a matter of time.
Some progress, then. I can appreciate efforts. It does seem that you've been working hard on one's behalf.
You blink.
I have.
In an instant, the figure is standing mere feet away from you, no longer yards across the platform, but within touching distance. And you watch as slowly the figure withdraws one of its hands, the pale white of the bone of its skeletal fingers glinting in the light that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere around you.
You have worked for your efforts. I can appreciate your diligence. And well, the wounded one believes in rewards, pleasure as well as pain.
Slowly, the skeletal fingers trace gently down your cheek.
Beautiful infernal flesh. But you crave more, don't you?
I do.
You feel a chill down your spine and a prickling across your skin as you feel the darkness beneath the hood regard you with a cold familiarity.
Turn around.
Metreon turns his eyes first to see if he sees any other part of this creature's form. As presumably he just sees the arm, though, and the hand. And very slowly begins to pivot towards the direction where the hand is coming from.
Okay. As the darkness beneath the hood regards you, you slowly turn, facing away from the figure and toward the edge of the platform. But where the void once sat, there is now an object sitting there, as if held by an invisible force in the darkness, scant inches away from the edge of your face and your body. It's a mirror, surrounded by a simple silver frame, a faint glint of light shimmering from its reflective plane surface, faint bits of distortion and gray and dirt from the surface where the glass has been scuffed and scratched from years and years of age, but you see yourself there. Not covered in the disguises you've seen, but the violet of your skin, the flaring amber of your eyes. You can see even your headband pulled back, the faint nubs of your horns clearly visible upon your forehead.
Do you find this dissatisfactory?
Metreon doesn't say anything, but his expression is very awkward and very almost disgusted looking in the mirror right now.
Well, there are things one can do about that.
You watch as the fingers slowly trace through the air, not against, but beside your face. And as they do, you watch as, in the mirror, a faint veil of mist, not like clouds of fog, but interconnected by strands of shadow, like silk of a spider's web connecting in joints and anchors. As the weave slowly pulls, as the finger drags through the air across your flesh. And as you watch in the reflective surface of the mirror, you can see your reflection start to shimmer, start to change. It's the horns that you watch first as slowly they begin to grow thinner, then shrinking in size, receding against your forehead until they are but small nubs beneath the skin, and then flat beneath your forehead. You watch as the silver hair begins to darken, turning a grayish brown, then a jet black. As below it, the purplish flesh begins to pale to a more brownish olive hue. There's a flash around your eyes, and in that moment, the amber irises cool to an ordinary brown. You blink and look at the reflection, and instead of your own tiefling visage, you see a human, at once familiar and unfamiliar, staring back into the eyes. And as you feel your eyes pull down involuntarily, you see your hands flexing at the corner of your vision, not purplish, not with the faint claws at the sharpened edge of your fingernails that, as hard as you try to file, never quite go away completely. Simple rounded nails, the same brownish olive tone.
I flex my hand a bit to see if it's real. I kind of press my fingertips into my palm, and I look back up at the mirror, and very slowly start to approach it. I place my hands on the frame to just get a sense of what it is, what it feels like, its tactileness, if it's even just real. And I put my hand towards the mirror, and I see the reflection of that same humanoid-looking skin on the palm of my hand in the mirror, and see how it matches my own. And I just kind of get lost in this new form in the reflection of the mirror. It's not even paying attention to the wounded one anymore.
As a moment passes as you regard it, then you feel the sharp clinking of your nails against the mirror. You hear the wounded one say, "Of course, it is only skin deep. Light is a more pliable substrate than flesh, for one of your capabilities at least. But an adept liar must have more tools than shoe polish to conceal one's identity. Yes?"
Yeah. And as he says that, he's not even paying attention to the patron. He's just hypnotized by the reflection, just marveling at it.
As you look into the reflection, you hear the snap of bone against bone, and the mirror vanishes. With a blink, you're no longer facing the void, but the figure.
Vanity has its uses, but there will be time for that eventually. But fear not, boy, for you'll find more surprises as well when you awaken. Happy ones, I hope. Are you not pleased?
Metreon takes a moment to consider the weight of these words and looks back down in his hand, wriggles the fingers a bit, flexes again, looks back up at the figure. This'll do. Yeah, this'll do a lot.
Good. I am quite adept at ensuring that those I confer with are happy with such relationships. But do not forget, we do have a deal. And I will expect you to continue its pursuit with all efforts. For I can tell you are close to breaching the girl's testimony. Do not let up the pressure. When next we meet, I want to know every glimmer she saw, every whisper she heard, every brush across her skin beneath that cursed dwelling. I want to know what powers she dealt with and what they told her. I want to know why they chose her. Do you understand?
Yeah, I got it.
Good. Then I shan't keep you. Until next time.
There's a soft wave of shadow around the skeletal fingers of his exposed hand, and then slowly, the blackness swirls. You feel yourself falling into a cold depth. And your eyes open. And the first thing you notice, as you awaken to the dark interior of the chamber of your room with the Blue Water Inn, you feel the soft rustle of the rough fabrics of the blankets over top of you, the crunching of the straw beneath your bed. And as you come to consciousness, you hear at the corner of your ear a tapping against your window.
Is it a gentle tapping?
It's not quite gentle. It feels more like the clack of your fingernails against the mirror.
Yeah, he'll very slowly pull away the covers. He passed out, I presume, because of how drunk he got the previous night, and kind of stumbles towards the window to see what the sound is or the source of it.
As you awaken from your rest, stepping forth from the bed, you kind of move up to rub your eyes for a second, wiping the sand from them in the sleep. It's still pitch black outside. And as you step toward it, you see for a moment, through the haze of your sleepy state, a hand against the window pane. In the darkness, you see, for a moment, cast in the darkness, its features too dark to distinguish, but beside the hand, a face. And for that moment, as you see the hand press against the glass once more, you see the scratching of a long claw against the glass. And then a floorboard creaks beneath your weight, and the face vanishes, the hand following soon behind.
Did I at least get a glimpse of who, of that face?
You did not. You did not make out any
Okay.
features. Unfortunately,
Right.
dark vision lets you see in the dark, but it doesn't give you perfect perception.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, he just stays there for a moment, looking out, trying to see if he can see the source of it, see any other kind of activity, and just stays there for probably about like 15 minutes, just kind of going over what he saw, not only in the window but also in his dream. Question, Draga. DM. When
Answer.
I looked in the mirror, was I still pink?
When you looked in the mirror in your...
I mean, the window. Sorry.
The window. I mean, by now the candle has gone out. It's still dark, but if you'd like to illuminate something in here, I'm sure you can conjure another reflection.
Yeah, I'll go and light the candle in my room and pull out my hand mirror from my satchel.
All right. Relighting the candle, you do pull it up to the darkness of the window. And as you do, you can see there in the reflection your familiar purple tiefling face, the silver hair falling unkempt over your forehead and ears. Just the glint of pink flesh beneath the flickering candlelight.
Metron sighs a bit and goes back to the bedside, sets the candle down, and starts to similarly flex his hand the same way that he was back in the dream. And as he does, he feels that cold connection, that shiver down his spine that he felt when the wounded one touched him. And he flexes his hand once more, and it looks like the pink flesh may start to turn a little bit more brown olive. And with that, he relaxes his hand, and it's still pink, and it's not sure if it's just like a dream or hallucination, just something coming out of sleep. But he sighs and, without going back under the covers, just rolls over and stares at the ceiling until he finally passes out again, thinking it also might just be like a drunk hallucination or something.
Okay. And with that, you do pass once more into rest, this time a dreamless sleep. And as you do, as time passes and the night continues, Kiva, whose room are you in?
Oh God. That's a really good question. So, Erthrendir would have put her into a place to rest, I'm assuming, being very drunk. So, I don't know how the rooms are all split up, whether we all did the sort of group room like last time, or where Metron got his special room.
Yeah, I presume he would have put you in with someone, with one of the fellow women, so Lillison or someone, probably.
Wilson's not there, though.
Oh, right.
Wilson's not there. So, well, I'm so sorry. I should have an answer for this.
No, that's all
It's
right.
my
Let's
job.
just presume for the current moment that you're in the larger guest room.
That sounds perfect.
The one that you've previously stayed in.
Amazing.
All right. So, as you sit upon the bed at the far end of the room, amidst the repairs that had been made since one of your previous visits here, you feel your trance about halfway through the night slowly come to an end as you draw yourself from the reverie of dreams and memories of your elven lives and histories. And as your gaze slowly opens and you pull yourself from the meditation, you hear the sound of something shattering on the opposite side of the road, outside of the window.
Like glass shattering or
Sounds more ceramic.
Oh, that's super weird. Okay. Yeah, she's gonna go check it out. Maybe to a window first to see if she can see out, and then if not, she'll try to sneak her way outside.
Okay. Glancing outside in the dark, with your elven dark vision, you can in fact see a bit of a ways into the shadows of the night. Glancing across, you see another building, this one a 2-story townhouse with a tiled roof similar to that of the Blue Water Inn. But as you look across the way, you can see crouching atop a place where the roof bends, just a bit away from the top, a crouching figure in the dark, watching you silently, almost as if meeting your gaze through the window. Question: is Erthrendur in the same room as Kiva?
I'd say he would be, yeah.
Okay. As you come out of your own trance, you see Kiva glancing out of the window, looking towards something on the opposite side of the street.
Erthrendir kind of blearily pulls himself awake, staggering over to see what the fuss is about, and then locks eyes with the figure. Ow, fuck. Can he, make out any details of what it is, or is it too far away for his dark vision to pierce?
Make a perception check with disadvantage. It's not more than 60 feet away. It is within a certain visual range, but it is still night out.
That's a natural 19 and a natural 20, so 21.
All right. You peer through the darkness and do your best to delve through the murk and the mist that wrap across the street. And for a moment, the mist parts, and you see the familiar face of one of the vampire spawn that you saw attacking the church maybe a few nights ago. A woman's face, though pale and the flesh sunk in somewhat. Sallowed, hollow eyes just staring across the way to the window where Kiva stands, though as you watch, the face slowly turns toward you.
Erthrendir just looks over to where Amity is presumably sleeping. Get up, now!
Amity wakes up. What?
He just silently beckons her over to the window. There's one of the vampires The ones that were at the church.
Amity scrambles up against the back of the room. Is Strahd here?
I don't see him. And more to the point, I think this counts as a dwelling place, as long as we stay in here, but... Damn, alright. Is the vampire making any moves, or is she just... What's she doing at the moment?
Right now, she just appears to be crouching atop the roof and staring into the windows.
Alright.
Doesn't appear to be making any aggressive moves, just quietly watching.
Amity, can you wake up the others?
Amity nods. The others are presumably in separate rooms. Amity will creak open the door and look very hesitantly down the hall.
Yes, as you open the door, you hear footsteps across the other side. Stepping forth from one of the bedrooms on the other end, you see Danica holding a flickering candle in one hand. She meets your eyes.
Amity is just going to yell, "Vampire!" Just to hopefully wake up people down the hallway. I think Amity believes that the hallway might not count as a dwelling, or Amity's not sure about this. So, yeah.
Well, regardless, you immediately hear movement from the door immediately to your right, where you know Ismark and Irina to be. Metreon, you hear as well. Where's Lillison?
Lillison is down in the tap room. She probably fell asleep over Victor's spellbook.
All right,
Kiva
you
would
jolt
go get
awake at that
Lillison
scream.
and Esmeralda, I think, as well.
Esmeralda's not here.
Yeah.
Oh, she's not in her wagon?
She's in the wagon.
She's in the
That's
wagon.
where, yeah, I thought she was going to she would go to the wagon.
Where's Kiva
Outside?
going?
That's
You're
what
in-
Lillison would have been doing.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so Lillison, you awaken Kiva, you awaken and exit. What are you doing?
She's just going to go get Esmeralda after seeing the,
All right.
the vampire, yeah.
As you do, you see Danica standing on the balcony. Hold it, it's all right. We saw them too. As long as we don't go outside, they can't do anything.
But Esmeralda's out there, and we need to warn her.
Watch as she kind of snarls. Shit. Right. All right. Wait a moment. I'm coming down. I'll keep an eye out. Keep the door open. In and out. All right.
Yes, of course.
Be quick.
Yeah, she'll do it as quick as her little legs will carry her. Just run out, knock on the thing, say, "Hello, time to come inside." And
All right. So with that, you, Lillison, and Danica make your way toward the front door of the tap room. Danica kind of gives you a nod, kind of readying the undoing the locks and then holding the handle for a moment. And then as soon as you convey that you're ready, she jolts it open, pulling, and you feel the blast of the cool, chill, Vallakian, misty air on the other side.
yeah, so she's got her sword at the ready, and she's going to just run immediately to the wagon. No pretense for being respectful. Bang on it a few times and tell Esmeralda that she needs to get inside now.
All right. As soon
Kiva
as you
is-
bang on the door, you hear a sudden shifting of steps within. The door opens, and you see a silvery rapier glimmering with blue light, slicing toward you, only to stop just beneath your chin.
Okay, not really the way to greet a messenger, but please get inside.
And you see Esmeralda kind of like looking very hazy, kind of like dark under the eyes, but you know, a kind of sharpness to her as she jerks the rapier back. Shit, sorry. Let's get inside. I thought you were. Never mind. Let's go.
Yeah, once Esmeralda's inside, she'll run in behind her and just slam the fucking door shut.
Esmeralda exhales as she makes her way inside after you. The candlelight flickering in the tap room as Danica lights a few more candles.
Oi, what's going on?
There's a vampire out on the roof. Not our roof. Across the
Actually,
street.
Wait, what?
Erwin is upstairs handling it now, but some friends of ours have spotted them lurking about. 2 of them at the moment. One was prowling the exterior earlier. This one arrived a bit later.
Like targeting the end specifically?
It would seem so. One of them, the first one, was making its way around the exterior. The other one seems to just be watching. Thus far, they've not done anything aggressive, so
Yeah,
some hopes.
and though we can't wait for daytime. That doesn't work here.
Well, they
Well-
still can't come in, right?
By this
Oh,
point,
is
he's
there-
more kind of staggers out, like somewhat blearily, but kind of doing his best to look awake, look alarmed as you see his long sword strapped to his belt. They shouldn't be able to get in without an invitation, no. And if nothing else, I'm not so confident that they'll choose to stick around without their master here. But we'll have to see.
Are they keeping a watch on us, or are they trying to keep us inside?
Hard to tell.
I do not like the idea of being containerized until their master comes to fetch us.
Me neither. And more to the point, if they're still here in daylight, then whatever remains of the guard force might feel compelled to intervene, and, well, it'll be a slaughter.
Do you think they would?
Under new management, maybe not. We know how Miss Water feels about the vampire.
He must be on his way. So, I don't know how long we have until Strahd gets here.
No, that maybe, but there's usually a bit more time between when we see him. Like, it's been at least a few days so far. We
Also,
saw him.
Strahd ain't shy about showing himself. He's usually got a lot of pomp and circumstance, bringing a bunch of ghouls and cretins and wolves and all that.
So what's the point of this? I can't imagine why they'd want. I mean,
I can
Hold
think
on.
of several reasons.
what, to starve us out? That doesn't seem like the type.
To make a point after our little display of defiance back in Kresk, he could very well just amuse himself seeing how many days he can keep us cowering in fear while two vampires merely sit outside and stare at us.
Well, I'm not cowering in fear. I mean, what say we just don't go out there and take care of it?
Wait,
Do you
what?
think-
You didn't try last time. We don't have the capability. Maybe
We have all of
Esmeralda
us
does.
and her and the Martikovs. Why can't we take care of this?
At this point, you hear footsteps coming from the balcony as one of the doors open, the guest room, and a very pale-faced Victor pokes his head out. What's going on? Why the vampires? Are they here to kill us? Are they here to kill you?
What
We're,
is...
we're not certain yet why they're here. We're discussing what we should do about them.
Esmeralda, you've killed vampires before. Can you kill this one?
Esmeralda nods. Vampire spawn, as long as they are not accompanied by their master, are not easy to kill. They take some doing, but it is not impossible. But I would hazard a suggestion. There are other purposes that a vampire might wield spawn, even in brutish displays. There are more subtle methods. Given that they don't seem to have attacked, it may be that they aim to contain, but given that we are in the middle of a settlement, it seems unlikely to me that he would keep them around, especially since they would willingly do so. Spawn are strong, but they tend to value their lives quite highly.
Then
I
what's
have
the
another
point?
suspicion. Well, a vampire, well, more than once, while passing through the woods of the Svalich Woods, I have noticed what seems to be a bat or a wolf keeping a closer eye on me through the thickets than I thought proper. Vampires are creatures of intellect, after all. They are not creatures of brute force. And the master of information needs eyes and ears, no?
So he's come to watch us in our hotel rooms?
Perhaps it is one idea. You have mentioned that you seem to have been watched at some point. I know that I certainly have been. It is possible. Of course, we cannot rule out the prediction that something worse might show up, or that they might try something. But now with that we've been aroused, I think that if nothing else, it might be a good idea to set up a rotating shift until dawn.
I
Yeah.
don't believe that this is simply a spying operation. He has sent other creatures to watch us before, much less conspicuous ones. These seem to be... They seem to want us to know that they are watching.
Yeah, I'm with Wilson. There's a show of force.
I don't disagree. I think that we would be right to be wary. It seems that your display in Kresk has certainly piqued his eye. That is very interesting to be.
Well, in that case, if this is supposed to make us scared, then I don't really see the point in fighting them, to be honest. Like,
Yeah,
if they keep us kettled in here, then sure, but if not...
All right, well, I've rested, so I can take the first watch, if that's needed.
Yeah, I'll stay with you. I meant to keep looking over the spell book anyway.
Wilson glances guiltily towards Victor.
Victor, by this point, is not really paying attention. He's just kind of staring at the windows and just kind of a vague kind of horror.
Victor, do you want to stay down here with us?
I mean, I'm perfectly fine.
No, of course, but we would appreciate having you down here if you'd like to stay. It would be a help.
Eva twists her lips a little bit at that, but doesn't say anything.
And besides, this way you would know we are not doing anything untoward with your spellbook.
I don't know.
Yes.
I nearly spilled coffee on it.
You can't spill coffee on my... Okay, I'm coming down.
I don't have coffee. I'm messing with you.
He's already like dived into the room and like grabbed like an armful of blankets and like starts like plodding his way down the stairs. Right. I'm that spell book is very important. I need you to not do anything.
Nope.
Damage it.
Of course not. Keep an eye to make
Right.
sure we don't bring any brown liquids.
Good. Right. And you're sure they can't get in here?
Well,
Until
we're
you
not
smell
entirely
smoke and-
sure, but, you know.
Yeah.
Not unless they are invited.
Yeah, so if somebody comes to the door, don't answer it, and if you see anybody you don't recognize, don't look in their eyes.
He gives a vaguely kind of like searching look across the group of you, and then just kind of nods uncomfortably.
So wait, is we all coming down here, Dan?
I mean, I am. For the folks who need sleep, I think it's, I don't know. Follow your heart.
Danica
How am I
sighs.
supposed? Oh,
Well, if nothing else, Erwin's receiving semi-regular reports, so we'll let you know if anything changes on the outside, at least.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any sleep, knowing that thing's on the roof.
I think I'm still a little drunk, so I'm going to pass out a bit, but I'll come downstairs with you. And Metron goes back into his room and starts to like scoop up all of his things and carries the blankets, pillows, and his clothing all in one handful.
Yeah, Kiva would go and sort of take up position to either watch by the window. I don't know where the watches are supposed to be taking place, or if she'll just be downstairs, but she'll be with the others then.
Earthendeer will take up position near Lillison to kind of keep working on the spell book, but he's going to be also, keeping eyes and ears open.
Yeah, Lillison is going to sit near the spellbook, but she is actually going to place herself to watch the stairway coming down.
All right. Esmeralda will take up a seat by the door. You watch she kind of shoves her curls out of her face and curses quietly under her breath, rubbing her eyes.
Yeah, Kiva actually will go sit next to her then and keep watch with her, and because she seemed a little not well when she was woken up abruptly, so probably check in with her.
You hear her mumble, "Just can't believe God's a fucking moron."
Is everything all right?
Oh, just
being an absolute idiot is all. Me, not you.
No, trust me, I'm very familiar with being an absolute idiot. Do you want to commiserate about it?
Oh, just, removing all the drinks that I took in the last 6 hours. That would be a good place to start. It is, gods, I knew that, gods, we're in Barovia. I can't believe I was so stupid.
You don't seem very stupid to me. Is there something in
Yes.
particular that's triggering this most recent bout of self-hatred?
Look, getting drunk when a vampire is hunting you and your friends is probably one of the worst things that you can do. It's certainly top 5. So I appreciate the thought, but these moments of self-loathing are informative. It won't happen again.
No, they are. I absolutely agree, but I don't know. In my experience, and I'm just a bit older than you, sometimes a night like last night is helpful to remind yourself what you're fighting for in the first place. To have more nights like this. So we can regret the hangover, but the experience itself is an overall good one.
She sighs. She doesn't look entirely convinced, but she does just kind of shrug.
All right, well, I suppose we should keep an eye on the things that go bump in the night, yes?
That's my specialty now.
All right, I'll do what I can to stay up for a bit.
She murmurs some words, and you watch as, when she blinks, with a swirl of darkness around her fingers, you watch as the sclera and irises of her eyes become a jet black once more as she casts a spell.
If nothing else, hopefully I won't be totally useless looking out of dark windows.
Well, it's certainly a really creepy party trick, so.
Well, you can blame Barovia for that. It is not my aesthetic, but beggars can't be choosers, I suppose.
Kiva just smirks a little bit and uses her newfound blind sight also in a 10-foot radius.
Beautiful.
You can hear Metreon snoring as he is ducked behind the bar and made a little pallet and is crashed.
How many hours of sleep have we already gotten?
You've gotten 4 hours.
I guess Amity's in the tap room trying to get back to sleep, just pulling some blankets.
All right. Danica surveils this slumber party, just kind of gives a nod to herself.
Right, well, we'll let you know if anything changes. Otherwise, be well. Sleep restfully.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the morning.
Lillison is looking at the spellbook, but doesn't seem to be actually seeing it, kind of just staring at the page. And after a moment, she looks over towards Erthrindir and says, I don't know if this is a sensitive question, but how much familiarity do you have with military history?
See Erthrindir give a surprisingly genuine smile given the circumstances. Whole lot, actually, even before he kind of gestures vaguely at the air. I did a lot of reenactments as a kid, and even after I left Austria, my family always drug me to them, but I grew to enjoy them. All the battlefields and tactics and learning about names, and it was one of my favorite things. Why do you ask?
Anything from the last 60 years or so?
Yeah, I've kept up to date. There's not much else to do in my cabin but read.
She stares at her hands for a while, and then finally takes a deep breath and says, Are you at all familiar with the works of a tactician named Isides Winterstar?
Is Erthrindir at all familiar with the works of a tactician named Isides Winterstar?
That's a question for Kaya.
No, I think this is a question for Dragna.
I would say roll me a history check.
Gotcha. 16.
16. All right. Unfortunately, just kind of thinking on it for a few moments, the name has some familiarity to you. You recognize the name as aristocratic in some nature. There's some sort of nobility associated with it. But as for the specifics, either it's too late or too distant a name for you to truly recall.
It's ringing a bell, but it's not a very loud one. Could you illuminate me?
I wish I could. Well, I wish I knew more, is perhaps what I should say.
What's the context? If that isn't a
Everything.
loaded question.
Everything, and she glances around and lowers her voice even further. Everything I know about tactics and strategy, which apparently is very different from tactics, and the sort of thought that is required comes from his writings, and I cannot remember nearly as much as I would wish right now.
I'm sorry. Is it a case of the books that you referenced off of were lost or just don't have access to them anymore?
Well, I was thinking it was mostly a case of me being panicked and perhaps not having enough sleep. But
Also that.
it is frustrating. If we were back in... Well... If we were back in Neverwinter, many things would be different, would they not?
Yeah, I would have... I would have gone to my little meeting I had set up and probably would have never seen any of you ever again. God. That's something to think about. I'd hate that.
Would you actually?
Yes, of course I would. I wouldn't have gotten to meet any of you. And, like, of course I'd rather not be stuck in Barovia, but I guess I value what I've gained more than what I've lost, presuming we can actually get out of here.
Amity is a very lovely girl.
Of course, but I'm not just talking about her. I'm talking about all of you. You're very... I know every time I bring this up with Kiva or Metreon, they give me the "we're not actually friends, even if we are trying" talk, but I do... I like y'all quite a bit. You've done a lot for me, and I haven't really had friends like that in a very long time.
Wilson smiles, but it's like a pretty awkward smile.
I understand if you don't want to, like, make this all mushy, but yeah, so I mean it. But at any rate, this historian, or this tactician, like, what? You say you can't remember his strategies. Do you mind giving me, like, the broad strokes? What was his... You know, everybody's got some they're known for. What was his thing? Or her, I don't know the name.
His. And it was all about caution and gathering information and evaluating your own strategies based on what you expect your enemy will do in response, nudging them into certain responses that will be ultimately detrimental to them.
A corner of his mouth quirks. No, I can't see how you would use that at all. No, no, sir. No, it sounds very wise. Well, I hope with a little more sleep that you can remember what you've forgotten, and that... Sorry, I couldn't illuminate things.
I mean, I honestly wasn't truly expecting you to know the name at all, so... But what of all of the historical tacticians and strategists you know of? Is there any particular one whose philosophies you subscribe to?
He laughs. Well, historical is a bit of a stretch, but all things are a stretch in kind of immortal terms. But yeah, no, a mentor of mine, actually, named Christoph Goldfels. I base most of my ideas off of him.
And what sort of strategy did he favor?
That the presence of a weapon or an option can pollute your thinking. That just because there is something that you can do doesn't make it... Just because an option's in your toolbox doesn't mean that you are obligated to always have to consider it. There's... that you can choose. That you can work as hard as you can and do everything you can to try and win, and still make choices about what you do or don't allow. That, he was a bard like me, you know? Except way better. Like, he could raise the dead and travel to different planes and all that, but he never really used his magic. He'd peel occasionally if he was in a good mood, or show off a few illusions if some kids recognized him in the street, but he always said that if you can't get by with... He kind of... Earthendeer looks down. He's a little misty-eyed. I'm sorry, I'm starting to forget. It's been a long time.
Is this the man who you said would cast perhaps 3 spells, and 2 of them were to light and extinguish his fire?
Yep, that's the one. I mean, till the war came, then obviously a lot more were healing, and a lot more were teleportation, and then the rest were... He looks very grim. Well, they were... Now, the council always tried to convince him that he needed to pitch into the war effort in a different way, that, you know, with his capabilities, that he ought to be on the battlefield doing what casters do. But he didn't. And that's the reason I'm alive. That's the reason that anyone got out of Austria is alive. So, yeah. I respect knowing when what you do can't make a difference, and when it can.
I assume that he could have had access to magic that might poison other people's minds, and chose not to.
You're a little too confident in that. Am I that easy to read?
Suffice to say that you have had very strong opinions, and that your very strong opinions have been noted. And she sort of glances towards where Metreon is, like, you know, sleeping behind the bar.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, he taught me that, but it wasn't him who reinforced that. That was somebody else.
I see.
But yeah, no, between my tactician and yours, we might get a neat balance of... We can be a bit of a monster to win, but, you know, we choose the kind.
Everything does come down to choices, does it not? And sometimes all the choices are terrible.
Yep. Like whether to try and sleep or keep studying in the hope that you'll get some sort of power that'll help you get out of this jam. Though in this instance, I might recommend that you replace the book with an actual pillow.
Well, I suppose there's no reason why both of us should have to stare at this at the same exact time, so...
Yeah. Good night, Lillison.
Good night, friend.
And Erthrendir turns away, but there's a tear in the corner of his eye as he kind of buries himself in the book again.
Wilson turns away to roll out her bedroll, and there is a tiny smirk on her face.
All right, and with that, if all of you are turning in, if Kiva and or Erthrendir would like to make perception rolls, either both of you together or one of you with advantage.
You want to try our luck for both of us without advantage?
I'd say that's probably a higher percentage play.
All right, let's do it. That's an 11 for Kiva.
Excellent.
And a 19 for Erthrendir.
There we go.
Very excellent. All right, so the two of you, having finished your trancing for the evening, keep a close eye outside, Esmeralda staying up and assisting, her dark eyes almost unblinking at times to the shadowed avenue beyond. Once or twice you glance at the window, keeping a sharp eye on the silhouette crouched atop the far rooftop. But as time passes, it doesn't seem to move or to stir, and the creature that had once scrabbled outside the exterior wall of the inn does not seem to return. Hours pass, and slowly, as the sky begins to lighten, you take a glance back outside of the window, and the crouching silhouette is gone.
Yeah, Kiva would, anyone else that's awake, probably the Martikovs or Ez would just point that out. That seems to be clear.
Yeah. I think Erthrendir's already packed to go once the others wake up.
And slowly, as you keep a wary eye out, but nonetheless relax somewhat, some of the tension leaving, though some lingering, as a thing's absence may only be evidence that you can't see where it's gone, but nonetheless, as the day continues to lighten, as night recedes and morning approaches, you slowly feel that tension leave your shoulders as the gray light begins to emerge and your friends begin to stir, awakening from their improvised beds as morning comes to Vallaki.
Well, what happened last night? Is everybody all right?
We're all alive. And there is a remarkable lack of vampire outside the window, so honestly, you're waking up at a great time.
It's a great morning then. Oh, shit, except for this. And you see him kind of grip his forehead in anguish. Hey, listen, I'm a go get changed. When we're heading out, yeah?
Whenever y'all are ready. So, like, probably an hour. I think we're all hungover.
How do elves hang over?
It's just like you're trying to trance, but it's like the headache just keeps intruding. You're just trying to think thoughts of your ancestors and of times past, but then you're just intense reminder of how you took a triple shot off of someone's back yesterday.
Kiva just looks like could not be me. She slept fine, or tranced fine.
Amity wakes up with bleary, bloodshot eyes. Is it still out there? She's also
It's
going to roll on
gone.
the spirit table, by the way.
Nice. Everything is fine, and I have a kettle of hot water for people who want something.
Hot water and sugar, right?
Look, it's not my fault I was a... Okay, it's entirely my fault I was a softie to Casimir, but yeah.
Speaking of Casimir, isn't that where we're dropping off? And she just sort of points over in Victor's general direction.
Yeah, I got something I need to ask him first. Is Victor awake?
You don't hear any motion coming from his room, no.
Okay. Yeah, speaking of which, I gotta go ask him something. So, if I come out of that room and start trying to do anything stupid, presume I've been mind controlled and snap me out of it.
Have you been mind
What
controlled this whole
sort of
time?
stupid things have you been, like, is different than the normal things?
Earthwinger just, gives her a look for a solid 5 seconds.
Kiva holds up a hand and just says, "It was just, you walked into it. You opened the door and you said, 'Come on in, Kiva,' and so I followed. I went right in."
Yes, and now I'm shutting it. Just bad. Something that's bad and uncharacteristic. Just, you'll know. I get kind of really empty look in my eyes. It's not, you'll be able to see it. But yeah, I'm gonna go up and ask him that.
All right. As you do, you make toward the stairs, and you almost trip over Victor, who you now see had kind of wrapped himself into this strange sort of blanket cocoon at the very base of the staircase. You're not entirely sure how he wound up here, given the number of yards from where he started when you last saw him. But your foot nudges against him, and he just kind of jolts beneath you, twisting. And then a moment later, you hear the moan of someone who has rediscovered just how much he truly hates being alive.
Earthwinder, who's entirely too chipper for this time of morning, reaches down to help him up. Welcome to the land of the living.
Thanks, I hate it.
Most people do at this time of morning. You want breakfast?
If it's anything good, sure.
He casts a look backward at hardtack, hot water, and dried fruit. I'll see what the Mardikovs can rustle. Also, no, it may be a bit early for this, but had a quick question for you.
What is it?
He lowers his voice. The folks that from your teleportation circle, the ones that you tested, could you tell me their names?
The servants, I suppose. Why?
I mean to let their family know that their family's not going to be coming back. They, at the moment, I presume they just think they're missing. And even if it's not much, knowing that they are dead means they can start getting an inch of closure.
Well, I don't know anything about the families. I mean, I can tell you their names. But they mostly just stayed downstairs in the servants' quarters.
People have families, even if you don't see them.
Okay, well, I mean, the butler was Vladislav, and my mother kind of pauses and frowns. Not looking sad, but momentarily a bit twisted. The lady in waiting, I think her name was Katerina.
Gotcha. And if you don't know where they live, then I'll ask the Mardikovs. I'll do some asking around. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. That's all. Go I'll go rustle I'll go get food started. You wipe the sleep out of your eyes.
Right. And he sort of blearily turns back toward his blankets. You seem to start to kneel down for a moment as though he's pondering, wrapping himself against them once more. And then he puts his knee down and you hear a hisping, rasping yowl as the skeletal cat darts out from underneath the blankets, pounces up onto the chair nearby and just kind of It's not clear how a skeleton can hiss, but this one is certainly managing it.
Yeah. The others will see Erthrindir walk down the stairs, kind of something very stone-faced, and he gives a thumbs up to Kiva and the rest, walks outside the door, steps outside, and then you hear a thunk as he kicks the wall just very hard, and then he comes back in. I'm done.
That
something on your
wakes Lily up, just like bolts upright and just looks around.
Sorry, I had to get something out.
Victor very tentatively approaches the group as he does, kind of stepping toward the listen. The cat that is now kind of folded itself into one of the pockets of his robe, kind of puts its head out and hisses very intensely at Lillison. He just kind of takes a step back and just sidles away from her.
Lillison looks for a moment as if she might consider hissing back, but instead just sets herself to packing up her stuff.
Yeah.
You continued putting your things together, preparing your items and packing up from the night's rest. Just as you're finishing up, you hear a cough, and Ismark faces the group of you. You see he has his own pack over his side. Irina off by the bar talking quietly with Danica. Ismark coughs again and just kind of gives you a sort of worn smile. Do all of you have a moment?
For you,
Yeah.
Ismark, we always do.
Well, I'm honored. Irina and I talked a bit yesterday, and first off, I suppose I want to start off by apologizing for the wild goose chase that I have led you on. I'm eternally grateful for all that you've done to help me find somewhere that she could be safe, that we could find some place that we wouldn't have to worry about, well, the man in the castle. But I want to apologize for being such trouble.
Ismark, we've all been operating off of imperfect information. It's not your fault that yours was imperfect in a way that caused us a bit of inconvenience.
And I think you've more than made up for it with your help on the road so far.
I appreciate the kind words, but I suppose what it comes down to is that it's clear to me now that there's not really anywhere else to go. And I spoke with Irina about this, and I wanted to know what she thought and what she wanted, and we've come to an agreement that running away is not going to do us much good. And I know that I was absolutely useless that night the vampires attacked the church, and truth be told, I don't know how much good I can be for you. I do not know magic. My sword is just a beat up bit of steel. But if it can help in any way, and if it can, well, the way Irina put it, and I wasn't sure how comfortable I felt with this, but she said, maybe I won't be safe, but at least others will be safe after me. And, what I'm trying to say is that if you're looking to take that fucker down, we want to be there for it, if you'll have us.
Of course we will, Ismark. I would be a bit offended if you did not. And look, none of us could have done anything against the spawn at the church that night. That wasn't you. That was something about them. You have contributed far more than any of us had a right to expect or ask of you. And you have helped keep all of us safe. Not only in terms of protection from bodily harm, but... And she looks kind of uncomfortable as she goes on, reminding us why it is important to care about other people.
You're going to... then you hear his voice kind of catch for a second. You'd better watch out. You're going to get me all choked up over here. Well, I'm very grateful to hear that. You've been good to us, and we want to do what we can to help.
You already have, but if you're in it for what we're in it for now, then he's not going to stand a chance.
All right. I've been ready to take down the smug smirk off his face since I first saw it, so I think it's going to be an exciting endeavor together.
I'm ready to die.
No, you're
Nothing
not,
else.
Earthwinder.
There's
You're
not
correct,
much
I'm
place-
not.
If nothing else, as we found, there is not much place in Barovia to live. So if we're out to die, we might as well choose the right spot for it. Eh?
Damn straight.
And at this point, you hear footsteps as Esmeralda cuts in. Yes, but it would be preferable not to die, yes?
I enjoy not dying.
Good,
Just
I
so-
like you. You've got that, I don't know, some modicum of self-sustaining. That I like.
As I was wondering, you mentioned something yesterday, a question that you wanted to ask the doctor. Do you remember what that was about?
She kind of frowns just a little bit. Enough to notice, but not enough to really look uncomfortable. And glances down. It was, well, just a few questions I had and a few strange memories that I wanted to get worked out. It's a bit of a personal matter. There's nothing to worry about.
Well, I won't pry, but it seems to be something that was troubling you greatly yesterday, so...
It's just the alcohol, I'm sure. It's not something I expect to get in the way of any of our efforts.
Very well.
Well, should we get on the road then? I think we have someone to see about a prophecy, right?
Yeah. Though we're heading by the folks near Vallaki first. Need to see Casimir.
Oh, I can check in on Arabelle. That'll be good.
Oh, excellent. Which one was she?
Really?
God damn it. How did I...
The girl that you saved from drowning in a lake.
I'm bad with names. Give me a break.
My name's Kiva, by the way, and your name is Arthrendir.
Let's... Shut up. Shut up. I'm not doing this. It is too early.
Kiva, I have a question for you as well.
Oh, goodness. I'm not guilty?
That is good to know, but that was not my question. What does it mean when you were saying somebody is a 10?
I didn't say that.
Well, somebody said it last night, but what does it mean?
Colloquially, it's sort of like a 10 out of 10, or like an attractive person, I suppose.
Means they're hot.
Yeah. Why?
I believe I remember you saying somebody was a 15? Does it scale linearly?
Kiva, for being like a sort of blue-tinted person, just sort of like flushes a little bit. And And she says, well, I mean, sometimes you meet people that are just above and beyond the scale.
Yeah. No, to my memory, you were referring to someone in this room, too, though. A little foggy, can't think of who.
Kiva suddenly, steals herself, and she's like, look, if the person who I was referring to is appreciative of it, those kind of compliments can keep going, but if not, I think we should really get on the road, you know?
Well, I didn't expect you to be so kind, but thank you. I haven't heard that in a while.
She just gives, a little bit of a look at Esmeralda and smirks, and she says, yeah, exactly, Arthur, I was talking about you the whole time.
But how do you measure where...
Look, I can explain this to you as we go if you'd like. I can draw some pretty nice pictures for you.
Yes, I think diagrams would help.
Oh, I've got tons of those.
I want to get in on these diagrams.
How old are you again, Amity?
I'm going to be 21 in a few days now. I actually.
All right, so I won't scar you for life with my diagrams, then. That's. No.
Those are not the sort of diagrams I was thinking of.
That's the best way to quantify it. I mean, I feel like those diagrams are the ones that people would be most interested in trying to figure out, sort of number scales, right, Metreon? You've probably seen those diagrams before.
What's going on over here?
We're talking about diagrams.
Yeah, diagrams.
Scientific diagrams.
Yes,
every girl's had one in a life. She's like, this is why I need Metreon down here, because he's the one that understands me. All of you pure souls have no idea.
Yes, certainly. Just absolute, just beacons of honesty and purity.
Paragons of virtue and just,
I think this conversation has progressed into something I don't understand. Metreon, are you ready yet?
Is he ready?
So, as this was all going on, Metreon had gone upstairs with all of his clothing and the blankets and whatnot, kind of tossed them on the bed, and sits there looking into his compact mirror and his disguise kit. And for a few moments just tries to concentrate on what he dreamt about last night, the vision that he saw in the window, maybe whether it was a dream or a hallucination, maybe just the lighting of the candle, the way it flickered. And as he does so, he's going to go ahead and mask of many faces himself into the thing that he saw in his dream. It does. I don't know if there's a spell signature that Barovia would do to make it something else, but his skin is basically just changes into this kind of tan olive complexion. The hair goes naturally dark into that black color. The eyes go into a dark brown, and strangely enough, there are no tattoos. But he looks at himself in the mirror, kind of starts to rub his cheek very vigorously to see if it's real, to see if it's makeup or anything like that. And when he realizes that he's rubbing his own cheek, he kind of starts to feel all over his face. And when he gets to his brows, he realizes that he still feels the texture of the headband and the nubs of the horns beneath them. He kind of pauses a bit, tries not to think too much of it, and just in the excitement throws everything into his bag, and everyone would hear him burst out of this door and start to clatter down the stairs. All right, we're ready to go then?
You leaving the disguise on?
Yeah.
So does this still look like the Metreon that we know, or is it a totally different... are we going to be able to recognize, or we're going to be who's the fucking stranger that was sleeping in Metreon's room?
It looks like him when he's usually in disguise. It just doesn't look like makeup.
It just doesn't look like makeup. Well, hangovers look really good on you, don't they?
I feel so refreshed. I feel invigorated. I'm ready to take on the day.
I'll have what you're having next time.
But what did you have? How are you not feeling a bit out of it then?
Well, I was trying to explain to Kaya the importance of scientific diagrams when talking about how attractive people are, but you weren't here to back me up.
It's really, and Metreon turns to the others. It's really just a matter of instinct. Really, I'm personally not so cerebral about what I like. Just try to live in the moment. There's ways of assessing it, though.
That was not at all what I was asking. I was just asking, how, if the scale was from 1 to 10, how you could have a 15.
Well, it's like, 10 is the most attractive person you can imagine. If someone hits a 15, it means they're considerably more attractive than you could even fantasize about. It's not that complicated.
Well, yeah, the scale is flexible, really. We generally rate on a 1 to 10 scale, but some people go up to a 15, even maybe a 20. But it's all a matter. It's all relative. Is I think the mathematical term for it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like if I rate someone a 10 out of 10, then I find someone else who's like even hotter, then what am I going to do? I've run out of numbers. I have to go up to 11.
Right,
That
so go
happens
11 out
4
of
more
10.
times.
But the scale expands to fit with your experience. That becomes the new 10, and everybody else becomes...
Well, no, because you've got varying degrees of 10s, right? Like, with my scars and stuff, it's more of like a rugged 10, But like New Metreon is like just a classically gorgeous, this is a 10,
What do you mean New Metreon?
Well, I mean, come on, love. This looks better than any makeup you've done before.
Well, I spent the morning on it. I took a little time to myself, have you know.
All right, fine. So, old Metreon, more classically beautiful 10. We've got Amity, adorable 10. And you're the mysterious serial killer 10.
Wait, but not everyone can be a 10. That's just an adjective and then the word 10.
Well, not everyone is a 10, but anyone can be a 10.
Right, it's all about how you carry yourself.
It's all about perception, really, I may look at someone like Victor, he points to Victor, and I don't really see a 10. But, someone else might. Randy might see a 10.
Perhaps we should leave some people out of the numerical discussion. How does that sound?
What, Victor doesn't want to be part of the discussion? He's hanging out with us, after all.
As soon as you turn toward Victor, he has this absolute look of, confusion and dread on his face, as though he was suddenly sitting in the middle of a science class and someone picked him for dodgeball.
Victor, which one of us do you think is a 10?
Shush!
What?
Kiva, leave him alone.
All right, fine. I'm just saying, this sort of stuff is interesting. And if we're being listened to this whole time, I think we might as well give them something interesting to listen to.
Right, yeah, thanks for the reminder. Maybe we should just crack on then.
That's what I've been trying to say.
Party of 10s. Let's go.
Okay, with that, enjoying a morning meal, courtesy of Danica and Erwin at some point, who does emerge and greet you. You finish packing your things and leave the Blue Water Inn behind, as Esmeralda mounts her wagon and speaks the word once more. You see the horses manifest in front of it as she seats herself in the driver's seat. Right then, we heading west and east, I suppose?
Yep.
Alrighty, leads the way. And with that, as you begin moving away from the inn and toward Vallaki proper, leaving the central intersection behind as the gray light brightens in the sky above, you hear the sound of the horses across the muddy cobblestone road as you begin to press forward toward the rest of the town and toward the gates. It's not long before you pass beyond the church, the empty places where once you saw individuals speaking to the crowds, but now left behind and cleaned away. And when you reach the gates once more, you see the familiar sight of a pair of Vallakian guards, but now joined by an additional 2 figures bearing cloaks and scimitars at their sides. They give you nods as you approach. And
before they get to the gate, Erthrendir is going to ask Victor to go invisible again. Or actually, no, he'll just make Victor invisible again.
Gotcha. Victor is appreciative of this. Passing toward the gates, an invisible Victor trudging behind you. The guards there give you a simple nod and open the old rusted iron gates as they creak. And you pass beyond, leaving the not-so-quiet town of Vallaki behind as you set out once more onto the mud of the old Svalich Road. A few minutes pass as you begin making your way down the slightly bending, zigzagging road up out of this part of the basin. But before long, you find yourselves on a familiar branch as several trails separate north and south of the main road, taking one that you've traveled before, southward, through the trees and the dark woods of the canopies overhead. Before long, coming out into a familiar clearing with a familiar hill at the center.
And once again, we dodge the random encounter dodgeball.
DM, how long was the ride over there?
Oh, it is not long at all. It is perhaps maybe 8 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
It's not even a quarter hour.
Cool.
But by this point, you turn and you see the grassy, mossy hilltop. You see the old huts built into the side of it, where you've previously seen the dusk elves. The small, green, wooded hovels with smoke drifting from the chimney stacks, and at the top of the hill, where you see the wagon trail has led circling up to the top, you see the familiar ring of the Vistani caravans surrounding a tall red tent from which billows several curtains of black smoke into the gray, foggy sky.
Kiva's immediately got her eyes peeled for Arabelle.
Glancing around, you don't see her immediately atop the hill. You do see Esmeralda kind of like put her hands on her hips as she leans back against the front of her wagon. Well, I haven't had the chance to visit this particular camp yet.
Well,
What's
I'll stay behind with the wagon if it's all right. If you want to go up ahead, make sure that no one messes with it.
Oh, I don't think that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm not really welcome up there, so I'm probably just going to stay down here.
That's fair. She turns. So, where is everyone going? What is the plan?
I'm going to talk to Casimir. Any of y'all are welcome to come, but I don't expect you to.
I'm going to go look for Arabelle, but if you need anything, you know how to contact us.
Of course.
Have we actually given Victor's spellbook back to him yet?
Yeah.
I would presume you have, or at least Victor would hope that you have.
With all our studying of it last night, were we able to determine, at least what spells were in it?
I would say that either of you may make an Arcana check.
May I make it with advantage, because Wilson is helping me?
If Lillison chooses to permit it, yes.
Do you think you will get a better Arcana result than I will?
Almost certainly.
Okay, yes, I will aid you.
Thank you. 26.
Okay. So, you're not able to read the spells themselves. A wizard's magic is in some ways strange to you. But there are some spells that, working together, you are able to decode. Not in terms of how to cast them, certainly, but reading the spells themselves and getting some sense of what they might be capable of. You note some familiar spells, a spell that can detect magic, a protective spell that Lillison you recognize as similar to your shield spell, though it's strange seeing the arcanum and these runes for actually casting it listed down on paper. You see a spell for sort of short-range teleportation, it seems, a spell that you notice as seeming to be some kind of enchantment magic, perhaps something that can bend another person's will to yours. You read onward a spell that seems capable of unwinding other spells in the midst of their casting, countering their effect altogether. A spell that seems to permit flight. Several spells that seem to involve the use of great forces of cold and ice. You even see in a few other cases a spell capable of animating, though not raising, the dead, bending them to one's will. A spell that can conjure great bursts of flame. A spell that can ward and protect with a glyph or a ward, a rune. Spells capable of removing sort of distortions upon someone, curses that may bend their fates. You find a spell that can conjure great necrotic energy, another spell that can conjure great bursts of toxic gas. Altogether, it is a somewhat frightening array of practical and sheer deadly force into a simple leather-bound tome.
And by frightening, you mean intriguing, right?
Depending on the reader, but I imagine Lillison may well be intrigued.
Yeah, Earthrendir took vigorous notes.
Yeah, so did Lillison.
Okay, with that, Victor turns toward you. Right. Well, you said there was someone here, some local lord or something that you thought that I should meet, or
yes. Tell you what, I'm gonna nip in real quick and kind of explain what's going on, and then I'll bring you inside to introduce you. How does that sound?
Sure, I imagine that works. The people at the top of the mountain, those are Vistani, right? They're not going to come down and do anything while you're inside.
They will not hurt you if you do not give them cause to.
He looks a little suspicious with that, but nonetheless keeps his mouth shut.
But yeah, all right. Earthrendir will head off to Casimir's, though, inviting anyone who wants to come with to come with.
All right, will anyone be joining? All right, tough crowd. Earthrendir and Victor set off alone around the hill toward Casimir's shack. I imagine Metron is staying at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, he's in his chilla with Ez's card.
Amne's trying to take a short rest, by the way. Not sure if there's going to be enough time, though.
I would say if you'd like to take a short rest, you can. Or at least you can start beginning one.
Woo!
You're not sure if you'll have enough time, but you never know.
Are you hanging out down with me, or are you going with the others?
Sure, I'll hang out down with Metron.
Ooh, yeah.
Lillison will also hang out with Metron.
Gang!
Right, Esmeralda turns toward you and says, right, well, if you're going to stay down here anyway, I suppose I could leave my wagon, but do make sure that nothing happens to it, alright? I would prefer it if the lot of you did not go up in flames and smoke.
I'd like that too.
Right, she pats the horses on the wagon and then murmurs, Arvesh, and they vanish. She turns to Kiva. Alright, if anyone else would like to come up, I think I'd like to see some of my local cousins. Otherwise, Kiva leads the way.
All right. Kiva's sort of like more excitedly walking up the hill than anyone has probably ever seen her at the sight of potentially seeing her favorite child in the world.
All right, Irina and Ismark will remain behind with the others at the base of the hill. So, Earthrendir, you begin making your way around the hill, Victor following, heading, passing. You see a few dusk elves making their way around the perimeter. One of them kind of nods, seeming to recognize you. A few of them seeming to guard or looking out. You see one of them returning from between the trees, carrying what seems to be a small bag that seems to be filled with perhaps toadstools or berries of some kind. There's more of a life here than where you last were. Not in the sense of a cheery place, but a place where existence does go on.
Yeah. Something of the weight that's always on Earthrendir's shoulder seems to be lifted here, and he stands up a little straighter. All right. He goes over to the hut. Before he does, he's going to murmur a quiet bit of encouragement to himself and cast Enhance Ability.
Okay. What attribute?
Charisma.
Okay. Once more, the eagle's dark feathers kind of ripple across your face, your brow, and the top of your neck. Victor kind of eyeing you with a bit of intrigue and somewhat surprise. That's not a spell that I've seen before.
Well, you wouldn't. I don't think you can learn it. It's one of the perks of bardic magic. It's not all, stuff that's about the world. Some of it's about people. And in this case, it's just kind of me psyching myself up and giving me, getting me in the best state I can be. I'll show you sometime. But yeah, I'll be out to get you in a minute.
Right, sure. That should be fine. I'll
And-
just stand here then.
Yeah, and he'll knock on the door.
Right, you knock on the door. And after a moment, you hear a voice from inside. Come in.
Earthrendir will step inside.
Step inside, leaving the misty hillside behind as you step forward into the familiar space of Casimir's quiet cottage. In here, you can see the familiar foyer, the pictures and sketches upon the walls of the woods and the elven figures. You can hear the crackling of fire from the opposite side of the curtain that hangs between this vestibule and the remainder. And as you continue passing forward, leaving the vestibule behind and kind of doing your best to avoid tracking any mud into the home, you see Casimir sitting at the table, drinking a bit of tea as he glances up and looks toward you. Well, I'll admit I hadn't expected to see you back here. Earthrendir,
Is
was
that the very same? And is that a this soon or an ever, good sir?
Well, I confess I didn't look too hard, but whichever it is, it's quite enjoyable. Please have a seat. I brewed more than enough for myself.
He will, grinning. Yeah, no, it's very nice to see you. How have you been?
Well as enough as can be. It seems a good number of our folk have returned after your lot did quite a good job of finding the girl. One or two of my men had a bit of a rough time out in the wood, but nothing permanent. Thank
Aurelian.
Indeed. But I must confess I'm a bit curious. I wasn't expecting to see you. Have you returned regarding my last request?
Partially, but I admit that's not the whole of things. Unfortunately, as much as I'd like to say this is just a social call, it isn't. I have a favor I'd ask of you.
He kind of leans forward, the steam from the tea kind of drifting up past his face. Well, do go on.
In Vallaki, there's recently been a violent regime change. You know the kind. Fortunately, fairly bloodless from what I can see, but still pretty nasty business. And while I was dealing with all that, I'd struck up a relationship with the son of the old leader, the Baron. Not sure if you're at all familiar. And
Not personally, no.
well, they were bringing his family out to die, and I rescued him as best I could. And I was thinking, with the life I'm living and the fact that we've more or less committed ourselves to, after recent events, putting an end to the vampire, I was wondering if you might be able to house him for a few days. I know it's a lot to ask, and I'm not expecting that you have the capability or even the willingness to say yes, but I know that if he stays with me, if I try and keep a watch over him, then, well, I'm a vampire magnet, and he will not be safe.
Well, I can understand, I suppose. You watch as his eyes drift up to the tapestry behind you of the beautiful, lush green wood, and a shade of sadness passes over his eyes for a moment. Haven't been in the same position, but I've seen what happens to those in some cases where, well, won't ask what may have been done to trigger this particular
transfer of power, nor will I do the indignity of asking you whether this individual might have been involved in anything, but I've seen what can happen. Violence finds its target. If it'll help, I don't mind, but well, yes. If it can help, I don't mind, but I don't know that I can do it for too long.
No, I understand. I wasn't expecting you. I know. I just wanted to make sure that it literally happened yesterday for him. I wanted him to have somewhere safe and okay that he could process things before he decides what he's going to do next, where he's not going to be constantly worrying about life or death.
He nods. How old is he?
I haven't asked. 16 or 17, I think. Human, so young even for them.
You watch as he thinks of that, his eyes and his expression harden. In this kind of grim regard. And he just nods firmly. Right. I'll take him in. I can't say for long, but
Of course.
that's what you need to find him, a safer place.
Yeah. And a warning before you fully make your decision. He's a mage, a fledgling one, but very powerful. And I don't think he'd have cause to hurt you, but he perhaps hasn't had the moral grounding that he maybe should have with that level of power, if you catch my drift.
He raises an eyebrow at this. Well, I suppose that is something to... I appreciate you letting me know. I should be able to keep an eye on him. Somewhat confident he shouldn't be able to pull anything on me. And if he tries to, well, I'm sure that the boy's got his own slice of power, but I dare say that I might have had a bit more practice.
Earthrendir leans forward. Do you now?
In a manner,
I was not aware.
he kind of, leans back in his seat and kind of like rubs his finger along one of the knuckles of his right hand. You see there a small gold ring that seems to have at its peak, instead of a jewel or an inset, what seems to be a carving of two small white-furred foxes curled up against one another. He regards it for a moment and then nods. Well, I had the fortune of picking up a bit from my sister. She was always the prodigy, but in the time that I've had, you pick up a thing or two, and a thing or two becomes a bit more. Truth be told, I'd been hoping to put it to some use at some point, but one man alone can't do all too much, though I am sure that it's certainly enough to keep an eye on an adolescent young human.
Yeah, no, that does make me feel much better. If you've got that level of competence, then you might be the best person to watch him right now. And I do. Thank you so much. I just didn't want to see somebody else have to go through what I went through without help. Nobody deserves that.
I appreciate that. I understand that what we've seen of our people, we do what we can to prevent occurring elsewhere. Though, if you wouldn't mind, before you bring the boy in, you mentioned, that you're still having a bit of a vampire problem. Is that correct?
That is the understatement of the millennium, but yes. Though we met him again in Kresk. He tried to get me to murder my girlfriend. It was a time. I stabbed him in the throat.
His eyebrows go way up into his forehead this time. That is... You stabbed Strahd von Zarevich in the throat.
He looks a little bashful.
No, I'm not doubting you. I'm not doubting you. But, well...
Seems that you've been living a bit of an interesting life, at least around these mists.
It's a mix between exhilarating and absolutely awful. I don't quite know how to feel about it.
If might ask, what are your plans after you cast off from the boy?
We're heading to the other group of Vistani. There's some folks, somebody that we've been told about, a woman named Eva, that they say can see the future. That the companion we picked up seems to think that if we are intent on killing this man, and regrettably I think I am, then we need all the guidance we can get.
Eva. That's a name I've heard a few times over the centuries. But,
Wait, centuries? Isn't she, aren't most Vistani human?
Well, Vistani are their own thing, in a manner of speaking. From an aesthetic sense, and perhaps an anatomical one, human certainly seems adequate, but some caravans take in quite more beyond simple humans. I've seen halfling Vistani, I've seen met a half giant once. Not in Barovia, but
makes sense.
But the Vistani themselves, it's not a people so much as a way of life. And, well, one who travels the lost roads as they do. Well, time works a bit differently around them.
Understood. Also horrifying, but understood. Oh god, am I going to come out of Barovia and it's going to be 800 years later?
Well, I am no arcane theoretician. I should hope not, but
fair enough.
Regardless, I've heard enough word to suggest that this Eva might be certainly reliable. She has a bit of a reputation from what I can glean from our friends on the hill.
But yeah, that's the plan for the moment. From there, depends on what she says, I suppose.
Well, you're thinking that she might know a way out of Barovia, or are you looking for something a little more direct?
We're going to kill him. Or we're going to die trying.
Well, now ain't that just something indeed. I'll tell you what. I don't want to keep you. I'm sure you're busy and you've got, if you're heading toward Ava's camp, then you got a few miles to go before dark, but if that is what you decide on doing, I'd ask that you return after speaking with her. I have knowledge, there's a little something that I've seen over the years, something I've been looking into myself that might be able to help you. If taking the bastard down is something you're interested in.
What is it?
He gives you a bit of a tight smile. It's an old place, an old temple, as such, frozen up toward the peak of Mount Gakis. I've been investigating it myself for a few years now. And, well, I can certainly share more when your friends are here. I wouldn't want to go too much. I know that they're vital members of your companionship. But suffice it to say that I have reason to believe that, well, the secret to freeing Barovia and perhaps taking certain things away from the devil might be found there. So, you think about that.
Earthrendeer is going to try and see if he's telling the truth.
Make an insight check.
18.
18. You don't get the sense that he's lying as such. Looking into his eyes, you see a certain interest. Not deception as such, but an eagerness. Almost a bit too much of a casual affect.
Earthrendeer smiles, but it doesn't meet his eyes. Well, that is certainly something to hear about. Yeah,
Indeed.
no, we'll be back through, and I'll bring my companions, and we can see if we'll, see what's what. Of course, we do have to deal with the minute life and death of staying alive, so we may not be able to attend to it immediately, but I'd be happy to hear you out.
Of course, and I have my own reasons for going there. There's certain things there that might help with some of the troubles I've had with my sister, but it's an old place, and like I said, I visited there a few times. I think that there might be something there that could prove quite useful in your endeavors. So think about it.
Would there be anything about possibility of information there?
That is, it's possible. It's an old place. It's possible that, information about Zarevich's pact, the way he forged the state he is today, it might be up there.
Understood.
From what I can tell, it seems to be a place where a lot of secrets were kept. Whatever order or institution first erected it. I can tell. I've not ventured far in, I've not ventured too far, and there are some dangers a bit of a ways beyond the front doors, but there must be something past there that's worth guarding.
Well, I appreciate you letting me in the know. And, of course, for taking in the kid. It's a weight off my mind.
Of course, anytime you need.
I'll try not to ask you for babysitting too much.
I appreciate it. It's not exactly my forte. But if you'd like to bring the boy in, what was his name again?
Victor.
Victor. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Surname?
Volakovich.
Victor Volakovich. All right.
I know. Nice and alliterative. It's good taste.
Can appreciate that. Well, not the case. You'd better bring him in.
Of course. And Earthrendeer will step outside and motion for Victor.
All right. Victor kind of starts when he sees you, as he kind of, has been leaning against the side of the shack. Nods. Oh, right. I can come in then?
Yep. Come on in.
He somewhat uncertainly steps into the vestibule past you and kind of scrutinizing the curtain, just kind of pushes it aside. Casimir, now standing, gives him a nod. Good to meet you, Casimir Velikov. I hear that you're Victor, looking for a bit of a place to stay. Victor looks around at the admittedly comfy, very well-kept hovel, but hovel nonetheless, with something between, horror and kind of glum acceptance. Yes, that's what he told you, I think. Casimir nods and turns to Earthrendeer. Right, well, we'll do what we can to keep you comfortable while you're here. I imagine your friends should be back here in a matter of time. Am I right, Earthrendeer?
Yeah, we'll be back. Don't worry. And Victor?
Yes.
Good luck. I'll be back through. This won't be the last time you see me, but he's a good man. And I have faith. You're smart, you're capable, and you don't have to know what you're doing now, but when you're ready, you'll figure out what you need. I promise.
He looks at you curiously for a moment and then nods. Right. Well, yes. Good.
Take care, you two. Be safe.
We shall. Casimir offers you a wave. Safe travels on the roads. Hoping you find what you're looking for, and hope to see you soon.
Here's hoping.
nods, and as you turn away, you see a small white feline skull poke itself out of Victor's pocket, and you see Casimir's expression change to a look of, oh god, what have I gotten myself into? And then the curtain falls behind you.
Excellent.
Meanwhile, back outside, ascending the hill. Kiva and Esmeralda, you begin slowly making your way up the wagon trail toward the top of the hill, passing your way between the wagons, stepping over the mounds of horse dung as the riding horses anchored to poles, standing there and snorting, exhaling large puffs of hot breath into the cold, misty air. Esmeralda gives the horses a thoughtful eye, but follows you forward. Are you heading toward the tent? Where are you going?
Yeah, I think she would head towards the tent first and look for Luvash because she's probably nearby him, I would assume. It's still been a few days, I think, since she was missing, so I can't imagine he'd leave her out of his sight.
Okay. Esmeralda follows you. You pass into the tent, and there you see the several campfires burning, flickering. You see the smoke rising up. You see a number of Vistani that have gathered here, a few by the fires, playing cards or otherwise socializing. You see a few others that appear to be stocking bits of firewood by one of the walls of the tent. Otherwise, you can see just off to the side of one of the larger campfires, just faintly through the haze of the smoke, not Luvash, but Aragol. His goatee smartly pulled to a point at the bottom of it. His brown. Another man just beside the campfire.
Yeah.
He holds up a finger as he hears you approach to the person he's been speaking with and turns to face you.
Good morning, I guess. I was just wondering, we were in town on the way, and I just wondered if Arabelle was around. Luvash, I guess.
Aragol kind of furrows his brow. Luvash is taking care of a few tasks at the moment. Why, is there something that you were looking for my brother to do for you?
No, I like I said, I was looking for Arabelle, but I figured he probably had her around him. If not, it's not the end of the world. I just wanted to say hi.
Make a persuasion check.
Kiva's specialty.
Believe in the me that believes in you. Fuck!
That's a 4?
4. Ariel shrugs. He's, as I said, he is a bit preoccupied. Arabelle is as well. Perhaps come back later.
All right. Thanks. And she'll just sort of...
As you kind of take a step back, Esmeralda clears her throat. Right, if I might ask, sorry, what was your name? Aragol, yes? He grunts with a nod. Yes, if I might ask, I'm a bit curious, where is your Ronnie? I have not seen her. Aragol turns and gives her a kind of deadpan look. You are strange, then. The old ones are dead. If you're looking for Ronnie, then, well, me and my brother are all that matters, in that case. Why? Some things you want, cousin? Esmeralda looks a bit taken aback and just shakes her head. No, it's, nothing. I was just a bit curious as all, cultural exchange and all. You have, beautiful horses outside. You seem to be doing quite well for yourselves. Even in the absence of, well... She raises an eyebrow at him, and Aragol scoffs. Right, well, if that is all, then I have business to attend to.
Kiva gives just sort of a a bitchy look at his business to attend to and just leaves the tent then. Damn it!
Esmeralda grunts.
Well, certainly explains a bit about them.
Oh, the fact that he's a huge asshole?
Well, the fact that the elders, I don't imagine you've noticed, but I can't imagine that any of the folk in that camp are over middle age.
What happened to them? Did they all just die out, or?
It's possible. I should hope that it was by natural means, but I don't know. There's something about that one, Ergul. Puts me a bit on edge. You've met him before?
Yes, we had to briefly deal with him when we were tasked to go rescue Arabelle, so we were supposed to
Right.
get a way out of here from them. Turns out that they were selling nothing more than magic potions in a bottle made of, whatever.
I've heard something like that. I have heard that many of my people in this area are more than sympathetic to Zarevich, but him especially. I don't know where his loyalties lie, but he's dangerous. If you see him again, you should keep an eye on him. There's something in his eyes. I don't like the look of it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. Luvash seemed a bit more persuadable, but Aragold just seems... something's not right. So, we didn't try to stick around too long after we rescued her.
Aye, well, sorry that the girl wasn't around. You seem to be looking forward to meeting her.
She reminds me of someone. So I just was looking to check in, but anyway, that was all I wanted to do here. Should we go back?
Of course. Let's join the others. And she follows you down the hill to rejoin the wagon.
All right, is there anything the others down at the bottom of the hill would have liked to been doing during this impromptu short rest?
Vibing. Beyond that, not particularly. Just kind of keeping an eye out. And what are Amity and Lilith's passives?
Perception, insight.
Perception.
Turns out it's a 10, actually.
I believe it is a... Wow, I cannot find anything on this new character sheet.
It's just 10 plus your perception mod.
14.
From memory, I think it's 15.
14.
Cool.
So then, yeah, Lillison would probably notice that Metreon has been looking in his hand mirror a lot more often than he usually does.
Metreon,
Yeah.
what do you think is required for somebody to be a 10?
Well, it's a lot about, the way you carry yourself. Sometimes it's build, sometimes it's, well, why do you ask?
Is it something that one can evaluate for themselves accurately, or is this something where you have to each evaluate for other people?
It's relative, So if you, if you ask Amity what she thinks is a 10, it's probably going to be a lot different than what I think is a 10. And same would be for you and everybody else. So for Kiva and myself, Ez is a 10 because she's, she's beautiful and cool and talented and kind and has this cool wagon and beautiful.
Does one's possessions come into this count then?
Well, that's a whole different thing. Then you can be with a 3, but if they're well-to-do, you can convince yourself they're a 10, and hope that they leave you something in the will.
Ah, that does make sense.
I've made many 3s think they're 10, so
Well, naturally, you don't tell people that they are 3s. That would be insulting.
Well, it's true. Well, unless you do want to insult them.
Yes, but that's a more blunt instrument than is really called for most of the time.
Well, some people like blunt instruments, some people like to cut with precision.
Do you think you're a 10?
Metron pauses and bites the tip of his tongue a bit.
You have been looking at that mirror for a very long time now, I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah, well, it's not often that I have this good a makeup day. So, just marveling over it, just having a good old time while we, sit on our asses here and wait for everybody else. What about you? Do you think you're a 10?
Does your number change depending on how well you put on your makeup?
Well, I mean, numbers aren't hard and fast. They could fluctuate. Some days you might feel like a 10 and others you might feel like a 1. Just kind of depends on, again, how you're carrying yourself, how you're feeling.
So one's number for oneself might be different than the number that other people assign to you, and it doesn't matter what number you are under the makeup? Am I getting this right?
I'm not sure I'm following.
Well, what number do you think you are without the makeup?
Hey, I asked you first what number you thought you was. You didn't answer, so you answer me and I'll answer you. How many? You answer us too. What's your number?
Oh, all right, but is 10 actually the maximum here? Like, we're not going rating out of 15 secretly or anything.
Well, I mean, if you feel like you're a 15, say you're a 15.
I'm definitely not a 15.
Well, there you go.
I think Erthrindir would beg to disagree.
Oh, well, I mean, probably. I mean, he would probably assign himself like a lower number because of his scar, right? But he'd be wrong.
That would accord with what we've seen of him, yes.
I feel like if I have to pick a number for myself, it would be like 7. But also, I mean, I'm biased here because I feel like if I say a number that's too big, it'll sound like I'm bragging. But if I say a number that's too small, then it'll sound like I'm just being self-deprecating for the face of it.
You're among friends here, Pet, right? So if you feel like you're a 7, then you're a 7. To Randy, you're probably a 10 or a 20, maybe even a 30. I don't know.
All right, I'm going to say to myself that I'm an 8. All right, now you have to do your numbers.
All right, Lil.
I still do not understand this system.
Just give it a go.
No, if I give a number, it is meaningless because there's no correct intention behind it. I think you should give me a number.
Well, numbers are meaningless anyway. I mean, what are they?
They are not meaningless.
I mean, they're just a bunch of things you put together and things happen. What is anything really? I mean, everything's just kind of whatever, right? Nothing is real. All right, fine. You're probably, I'd say, kind of looks you over a bit, looks you up and down. I'll give you maybe like a solid 8.5, 9.
Listen's eyebrows go way up.
Are you?
I mean, you're fit, yeah. You're right, bird. And very clearly intelligent, and you still might be a ghoul, but you hide it really well.
I assure you, I am not a ghoul.
Okay, I'm sorry, ghast.
Or a ghast.
Okay, well, white.
I'm
just pissing on you now. It's fine.
I thought that you were perhaps flattering me, but now I see that is not the case.
I'm flattering you. Listen, you like I said, you're fit. You're right. You're good to go.
Oh,
Why are you so suddenly all worried about numbers? I mean, I think I read once that if someone's just sort of very classically beautiful, like if they're, an 8 or 9 across the board, then that might actually be like worse for them than if they're sort of beautiful in a weird way, like 10s to some people, but maybe like 4 or 5s to others. But I mean, it seems like you're worried about these numbers. But you'd be a good number.
I'm not worried. It's just this is the first time I've come across the concept of it, and it's very strange that everybody else seems to think that they know exactly what they're talking about, and yet everybody's take on it is so different.
Well, did you not grow up with other kids like your age? Like what?
I mean, I did somewhat, but this was not the sort of thing that ever came up.
Well, you grow
let's
up
do
in like
something
a
easier.
convent, a monastery?
Metreon,
A library?
At this point, you hear footsteps approaching from the hill as you see slightly salty-looking Kiva and Esmeralda making their way down the hill toward the wagon.
Oh, very highly salty-looking Kiva.
Lillison pitches her voice up a little bit so that Kiva and Ez can hear.
Metreon, I think you are 6.5 out of 10.
Hey, listen, that's your opinion, that's fine. I know my worth.
Kiva, perks up a little bit, but is just... she's just so fucking sad right now.
What's on you? Did you see her?
No, Aragol is refusing to cooperate, even just to say hello to a little girl, so I guess this was fuck all useless.
Oh, sorry, pet. Well, maybe you can come back next time.
Kiva, now that I know that different possessions or situations can affect something, I would say that you're a 7 most of the time, but 9 when you have your scimitar out.
That does actually make Kiva smile a little bit. That's very kind of you to say. Did that come from a good thing, or did I walk in at an awkward point in the conversation?
Lillison glances over to Amity.
Am I doing this right?
I mean, you understand the concept of like a scale, right? Like you could rate foods on a scale of 1 to 10
yes.
and color. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I guess
it's
what
hard
I'm
to really
asking
do this
is,
wrong.
What's the purpose? What are you trying to do with your compliment?
I'm trying to figure out how this works.
Oh, see, I thought you were trying to ask me out to dinner. Well, in that case, you're doing a good job. I guess it's just, keep complimenting people, I suppose. But
I mean, presumably we're going to have dinner at some point, or is that also a number somehow?
Why
it's
would it
not
be
a number.
Why
It's
would it be a number?
It's just. I mean, have you never been out on a date with someone?
No.
Oh, really?
Oh, well, that explains all of this then.
I still think she grew up in a monastery. Maybe a
I'm
convent.
starting to see that might be the case. I mean, I'm not saying the life in the Thieves Guild was all debauchery and stuff, but I mean, people went on dates and people flirted with you. I'm not understanding. Am I the bad person here? Am I the corrupt one?
At this
It's not
point, you hear footsteps
weird.
approaching, and you see Erthrindir returning from the other side of the hill.
Evening. What the fuck are y'all talking about?
Did Lillison tell you that she grew up with nuns or something?
I did not grow up with none.
What did you grow up
Not
with?
knowledge.
I mean, Erthrindir, you know what a date is, right? You've been on a date.
I mean, yeah, fair few.
Okay, so you know that there's going out to dinner with a friend, and then there's going out to dinner with someone.
Yeah, but that's not for everybody, I guess.
We're not saying it's for everybody. We're just wondering, because clearly Lillison's got a gap in her knowledge, so we're just trying to fill it in.
Erthrindir, what number do you want to be?
I will take a respectful 8.
I was going to give 8 to Amity.
I'll take a 7.5. She's obviously hotter.
If you insist, you get to be the 7.5.
He was just holding up 10 fingers at Irina and like laughing.
Well, where's our 15 at?
She's right here.
Oh,
Yeah,
there it is.
Amity's right here.
Oh, wait,
Not talking about Amity with this one, love. No
Oh, like
offense,
hell
Amity.
you aren't.
I mean, but come on. And she just sort of like makes the like, it's hot fanning thing. She's trying to make Esmeralda smile. Is it working?
As Esmeralda coughs and says, "Well, I've heard stories about an apple of discord, but I think this is the first time I've heard about the statistical charts of discord. How about you overall? Not that I'm not flattered." And she does seem to be fighting back a smile.
Yes, please let us leave now.
Yes. Okay, we is this
You know who
honestly
would be
what y'all
the
have been talking
perfect
about for
person
20
to ask
minutes?
about hotness scales is probably this Madam Eva. I think she knows better than anyone, right?
Yeah, I wonder if she's like what do you think she is? Maybe a 10 or 7? I mean,
Ez, do you want to
I'm
fill us in
going
on
to
this knowledge?
I'm going to
I'll
start
fill you out those
walking,
away.
and y'all are welcome to catch up to me.
Esmeralda will chuckle, step over toward her wagon, and whisper, "Trovash," and immediately begin preparing the horses to follow.
a right and proper 15 right here, ladies and gentlemen. And
Yes,
Keep a
they're all
clap
very
for
attractive.
Metreon.
We know.
Keeping Metreon golf clapping in the corner.
yeah, Metron helps her onto the seat next to him.
Is that just enough time for a short rest, or do we have to talk about numbers some more?
I would say that if you'd like, you can see that Amity's been kind of resting for the past 20 minutes or so. If you'd like, you can spend a little more time here to finish out the hour and just kind of vibe for the remainder of it, or you can set off now and interrupt the rest.
Can we not rest on the wagon, or will we not all be on the wagon or something?
I guess I could say, like, if you were to go inside the wagon, you could rest en route.
Into the death trap.
Given what's inside the wagon, actually probably better to just walk.
Okay. Well, in that case,
if not all of us can fit.
Okay. In that case, if you would like, you may end the rest and pick yourselves up and begin heading back down the trail toward the Svalich Road. Is that the plan?
Let's do it.
Let's
Let's
go.
get this reading.
Let's
we presume
fucking go,
a
gamers.
zero amount of 10
Reading.
conversation
Reading.
happens on the way, but we're
Reading.
Okay. In that case, you leave a final glance for the Vistani encampment and the homes of the Dusk Elves, pondering on how Victor will, or Casimir will survive in your absence, but nonetheless, turning forward and passing on through the trees as you leave the encampment behind, and soon find yourselves once more on the old Svalich Road. As you begin passing forward, you, before soon, find the misty palisade walls of Vallaki coming into view once more. This time, guiding yourselves not through the gates but around it on the flat, grassy surface of the clearing, just around the edge of town. You can see in some spaces where old, muddy wagons have worn wheels, old tracks in the dirt or turned through the grass, but not frequently enough to actually forge a path. As you're pressing forward onto the road and begin to leave Vallaki behind, if I could request a marching order, please.
Kiva's probably walking up close to the front of the wagon with Ez and Metreon, I think.
Yeah, Metron's sitting next to Esmeralda.
Lillison's walking behind.
Earthendeer's probably towards the back, chatting with Ismark and Irina.
Yeah, Amity's probably somewhere between Lillison and Earthendeer, trying to do multiple chats at once.
Okay, very fair. With that, as you make your way forward, the wheels of the wagon winding ahead and passing beneath the soft bits of moisture dripping from the trees, the mist swirling amidst the path, you leave the clearing of Vallaki behind and path forward beneath the darkness of the canopy. You continue on forward for 5, 10, 15 minutes, following the muddy, dark trail as it wends and weaves its way through the wood. You hear the faint whistling of the wind through the trees overhead, the distant cawing of a raven. As you continue on forward, you watch as the mist begins to swirl around you, and in fact, the mist here is thick in this part of the forest. And at the distance through the fog, you think you hear something. The faint sound of hoof steps and clinking chainmail.
Metreon puts his hand in his jacket on the handle of his hand crossbow and is looking out into the woods and onto the road.
Yeah, same. But not with a crossbow, obviously, with a scimitar.
Lilison grips her fist tightly around the gem on the chain on her hand.
Handle of the wand.
You watch as Esmeralda kind of just reflexively checks the blade at her side. The horses continue forward a bit slower, a bit warier. And as you proceed forward, the mist rises gently like a veil from the ground, cloaking you, swirling through the faint trees. And then you see something emerge from the road ahead. As through the mist comes a skeletal warhorse and rider, both clad in ruined chainmail. The skeletal rider holds up a rusted lantern that sheds no light, and as its form steps through the shadows of the mist and fog, that is where we'll take our break.
This is good.
Possibly not end badly.
No,
Oh,
I think
boy.
we're gonna be fine.
I'm ready to die. Wait, no, I'm not. That was the whole point of We're gonna. Oh boy.
Would you say the
always an
skeletal
option.
warrior is like a 8.5?
I'm feeling a 9.
No, we have to give him a 5. At least let Metreon be prettier than somebody.
Wow.
God.
I don't know who the
Charisma
fuck
is 18,
you're
I'll have
kidding.
you know.
Metreon is prettier than all of us.
Thank you.
Please note that Lilison's numerical scales do not represent the opinions or feelings of the person who's playing her.
Very fair. And I will also add that we should avoid putting this skeleton up on a pedestal, just because, you know, someone who's literally just bone without skin, that's kind of an unrealistic standard to set for people.
I mean,
It's
they're
true.
Not for
that's
the
a 10
12-foot
for me.
party skeleton from Home Depot, Dragna.
Yeah.
I mean, that
well,
one's
you know,
just
he's
like
not
that.
12 foot tall, so.
Oh, true. All right. Anyways, well, we will pick this back up after a 15-minute break. Until then, do please enjoy a few other messages from our D&D community, starting with part 1 of our interview with Alex, a Ravenloft scholar, GM, and author, where she will be discussing Rudolf van Richten and his presence across the lore and history of Ravenloft. We hope you enjoy, and we will see you back here soon.
Welcome to Fireside Chat, a short interlude with weekly features, where I, your host Job Lucas, will be showcasing and interviewing prominent D&D creators. This week, we are talking to Alex, a Ravenloft scholar, author, and dungeon master, about Van Richten's role in Ravenloft canon and his evolution in the story. With the release of Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, more than a handful of people are going to get to know Rudolf van Richten for the first time, despite the fact that he's always been a pretty integral part of Ravenloft lore. Can you tell those new players about his backstory and its evolution throughout each edition of D&D?
Absolutely. But before we get into that, it's pretty important that I put out a few disclaimers. I'm doing so because players and DMs should know what to expect when going into the conversation. Ravenloft as a whole is steeped in many ugly and problematic tropes, one of those tropes being anti-Tsiganism or racism against Romani people. For those who don't know, Ravenloft's Vistani are directly modeled after Western stereotypes of Romani people. I say Western stereotypes because Vistani depictions are not accurate to the Romani in many ways and perpetrate harmful myths used to oppress and scapegoat Romani people to this day. Throughout this talk, I'm going to be referencing 2 documents created by a Welsh, Romani, and Indigenous sensitivity consultant named Rue Dickey, because while I can give context to how Rudolf van Richten is written in multiple editions, I want to highlight work done by somebody of the culture that is being dangerously misrepresented and somebody whose work has played a big role in my own education. With all of that said, I'm going to be forward with content warnings for the already mentioned anti-Tsiganism as well as child sexual abuse. So the following is Rudolf van Richten's backstory as is written in older editions that ties into 5th edition Curse of Strahd. So Rudolf van Richten's background is steeped in both tragedy and hatred. He was born in the domain of Darkon, ruled by the Lich King Azalin Rex, and grew up in Rivalis in what is known as Richten House, his family house. He studied medicine at the University of Ilaluk and became a physician and an herbalist rather than a surgeon because he was, quote, too soft for the profession, unquote. He married his childhood sweetheart Ingrid, and the two had a son named Erasmus. Rudolf raised his family in Richten House, where he also held his medical practice. It was when Erasmus was 14 that everything changed. A Vistani caravan, a family known as the Radanaviches, brought a young man to his home practice to be cured of a fatal ailment or a fatal injury. Radovan, the young man, was near death, and Rudolf could not cure him. For fear of angering the family, he told them to take whatever they wanted from him. The Radanaviches took his Erasmus, which Rudolf realized about an hour after their departure. Van Richten rode his horse through the forests of Darkon when he lost their trail, carrying the body of Radovan on the horse's back. When he lost their trail, it was Azalin that came in a force of 100 risen corpses. Azalin, the Dark Lord of Darkon, rose Radovan from the dead as a zombie and gave Van Richten an army of undead to lead him through the mist, encouraging him to seek out those who took his son. Radovan led Van Richten through the mists, as the Vistani canonically can navigate through the mists, where they found the Radanavich clan in Barovia. Madam Radanavich, the leader of the caravan, told Rudolf that they sold Erasmus to the vampire lord Baron Metis. Angry, Rudolf released Radovan back to his mother in his undead state. Madam Radanavich cursed Rudolf, and he cursed her back, and the army of zombies followed after, slaying the Radanavich clan. Van Richten, terrified and unable to call back the horde he had unleashed, fled from the butchery and realized what he had done. He proceeded to find where Baron Metis was keeping Erasmus, but it was too late. Erasmus was changed into a vampire, an eternal consort for Baron Metis. The boy approached his father with a stake and mallet in hand and asked for an end to his suffering. All night, father and son sat and spoke about the joy they had in Erasmus' short life, and as the sun rose, Van Richten drove the stake into the boy's heart, the sun turning the body into ashes, which spread into the wind. Upon returning back to Richten House, Van Richten saw that Baron Metis had decided to pay him back for what he had done to Erasmus. Rudolf found Ingrid's body torn apart in their marital bed. It was then that he realized how fully broken he was between losing his wife and son and becoming a murderer. He devoted the rest of his life to fighting evil in the domains of dread. He would go on to pen 9 guides entitled Van Richten's Guides, which are canon in-game works that characters can find and read. They were also published as gaming supplements for both players and dungeon masters alike. They hold the namesake for the upcoming D&D product, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. In those guides, he recounts the murders of Ingrid and Erasmus, and often reinforces his disgust for the Vistani as a people, save for the Guide to the Vistani, which I'll touch upon later. It is not a guide about hunting Vistani, but yes, he does express his racism in the guides as a result of his family tragedy. Van Richten's backstory clearly doesn't change much into 5th edition, and what may look heartbreaking at first is also deeply troubling, because the backstory is rooted in Vistani racism, which, as mentioned, is all based in the way Westerners have portrayed the Romani for ages. We will address this further in coming questions, so I won't tear it apart here, but it's clear that the 5th edition Curse of Strahd story even amplified the racism in their writing. As Rue points out in their work, Van Richten's backstory is rooted in the child stealer myth, an anti-Romani myth that frequently blamed the Romani people when children went missing. It also made Romani people more susceptible to having their own children taken away by authorities because they were believed to not be able to care for their own children. Rue includes a longer, more in-depth explanation of this in their document, but it's clear to see why this should not garner as much sympathy as the writers of Ravenloft products thought it would. This is a backstory that holds a lot of heavy topics, and a lot of those I will unravel in the coming questions.
Rudolf van Richten of 5AE has a strange dichotomy. He is labeled as a lawful good monster hunter, yet is portrayed as harboring strong racial hostilities to the Vistani. What are these contradictions exactly, and why do they pose a challenge to Dungeon Masters, both new and old school?
Point blank, I believe you cannot have a lawful good racist. It sends such an awful message across the board, and I hope that I don't have to hammer in why racism immediately disqualifies anyone from a good alignment. We've dug a lot into his history, and I wanted to take some time to address his role in the old Ravenloft setting and dig into more of his character as I believe it was intended to come across. But as I'm doing this, I'm not excusing the writers for the terrible racist elements that they intentionally wrote in to garner sympathy. I'm trying to recount the image that I believe they were trying to paint of this doctor-turned-hunter. Rudolf van Richten is supposed to act as a foil to the Dark Lords of the Domains of Dread. He is often described as a small man with an elegant smile, someone who is notoriously neat, and this beacon of hope. He fights monsters not with strength, but with academic wit and study. He publishes his guides as a way to spread hope to the common people, to teach them how to defend themselves, and to inspire future generations of monster hunters, such as the incomparable Esmeralda de Avenir, and the Weathermay Foxgrove twins Jennifer and Laurie, who made their first appearance at the end of the 2nd edition Ravenloft era, were heavily involved in the 3rd edition, and are now coming to 5th edition in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. So clearly we have this man whose character goal is to be a light in a dark place. That's what he's written for. He's constantly inspiring people to take up arms against creatures of the night, and yet he harbors racism and hatred towards an ethnic minority in Ravenloft. There is simply no excuse to have both in the same character and still portray him as fully lawfully good. To say that people are complex does not automatically cancel out the effects of his racism as a character. His goodness cannot be real goodness while it is rooted in his conviction of hatred. It's rooted in his hatred of a group of people. And the fact that this is supposed to be a moral quandary left up to DMs, both new and old, to resolve, is a failing on TSR's part, White Wolf's part, and Wizards of the Coast part. I hope many people have the ability to distinguish why this is wrong, but to pose the moral question in your products, is this man good, despite being racist, is dangerous. Old Ravenloft, and even Curse of Strahd, are written sympathetically in favor of Van Richten. They want you to say, yes, he is, when he cannot be. So the products aim to sway the reader. Mind you, this is not to say that DMs can't think for themselves. Westerners, particularly Americans, are pretty ignorant of anti-Tziganism and excuse it as okay. Obviously, ignorance is not an excuse, but looking back at, the way we are conditioned to view Romani people, especially when we have films like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and even the portrayal of Romani people in that Robert Downey Sherlock Holmes movie, a lot of Americans do not have accurate exposure to Romani culture, and we are left up to viewing them through this racist Western lens. A common American response to anti-Tziganism is, oh, well, it doesn't happen here, which it does. And DMs need to have an understanding of why keeping Van Richten racist and attempting to code him as a good person is racist in itself. It perpetuates that anti-Tziganism is not important enough to judge the man's character that it can be dismissed. While the Vistani may not be real, they are, in Rue's words, an analog to the Romani, who are very much real and suffer systemic oppression with anti-Tziganism at the root. I cannot and do not advocate for choosing Rudolph's racism and making him a bad person. This seems to be the flip side of the coin, right? If he's racist, he's a bad man, and that's at least proving that racism is bad, right? But I think the next time I can continue to unpack this statement.
My friends, it is I, Count Strahd von Zarovich, and I bid thee listen. The Guild of the Black Crow have produced over 5 hours of ambient sound design for my most beautiful and ancient land. As used by Twice Bitten, these ambient backgrounds include my most private and intimate of letters, as well as bonus tracks not found in the Dungeon Master's handbook. So, hear me now. I guarantee you safe passage to their camp. Support them, and perhaps we shall meet sooner than you think.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Curse of Strahd Twice Bitten. Thank you for sticking around. We appreciate you guys. Before we begin, as always, a few quick announcements. As always, a thank you and shout out to all of our raiders and viewers on Twitch and YouTube. We love you guys. Thank you for supporting and for watching and joining us for this campaign. It's been a hell of a fun story, and we hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Secondly, as always, thank you and shout out to Foundry Virtual Tabletop, our continuing virtual tabletop sponsor for this campaign. Excellent platform, constantly in development. Encourage you guys to check them out. Really great for running campaigns either in the middle of the pandemic or virtually otherwise. So shout out to them, and as well to all of the folks providing the assets in this campaign. Runesail, our character artist, and everyone as well who's also supported by either giving us access to musical tracks or ambiance. You guys know who you are, and thank you. Otherwise, Twy, how are we looking on Twitch?
Hey, you. Yes, you, the person listening to this, sitting in your chair and or car and or bed, as is appropriate. I think you're pretty cute. Might even be a 9. But do you know how you could be a 10? Because if you subscribe to Twice Bitten D&D on Twitch, you get a lot of lovely benefits. Like Morgantha, to laugh at things, Strahd, when you really do need that menace, and many, many other lovely emotes, which you can get if you happen to have Amazon Prime for free or for simply $5 a month. And all the money goes towards making sure this stream for all you lovely people is as good as it can be and as beautiful as you are. Take it away, Serena.
God, there is no way I can follow that, so I'm just going to get right to the point. If you like what you are seeing or listening to, you can remember to join the discussion on our very own subreddit. reddit.com/r/twicebittenD&D. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/r/curseofstrahd, for all of our past sessions, fireside chats, video essays, and highlights from the stream. As always, you can send character art, anything sort of fun that you might have in mind for After Dark questions, potentially, to our email address at twicebittencos@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you very much, Serena. And Jack, as we mentioned earlier, I think we've got something fun coming up next week, don't we?
Yes, we do. So this coming Monday, March 15th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, we'll be going to the back alley behind Blinsky's for another episode of Twice Bitten After Dark. We're going to be discussing all the things that have happened since the last After Dark, which is a lot. We've got included, but not limited to, Vallaki, vampire feasts, backstory reveals, Kresk, more backstory reveals, and most importantly, how cool Esmeralda is. We'll be streaming live here on Twitch, and we want your questions. So you can post them to our subreddit, which is, as Serena said, r/twicebittenD&D. You can also email questions to twicebittencos@gmail.com, or if you're a member of the Curse of Strahd Discord,
Curse of Strahd.
I'm just gonna do the rest of this in that. If you're a member of the Curse of Strahd Discord, I can't do this. You can post them to I feel like Elmer Fudd. You can post them to the Twice Bitten channel there, and we look forward to seeing all of you tens there.
All right. Thank you, Jack, and thank you all. With that, I think those are all the announcements we have for today. So let's shuffle on over, skulk back our way to I can't English either. Skulk our way back to the Twice Bitten tabletop and pick up where we left off. So, stepping forward on the Old Svalich Road as the mist swirls thick around you, you see, heading westward, the opposite direction from you. Through the mist, stepping a skeletal warhorse and rider, you can see now that both are clad in ruined chainmail, aged from years, if not decades or longer, of disrepair. The skeletal rider holding up in its arms, bony and white but worn by the weight of years, a rusted lantern that itself sheds no light into the dark canopy of the trees around you. You watch as Esmeralda's hand goes to her rapier and she stares ahead, tensing up.
What is that?
Does it seem to be watching us?
It doesn't. In fact, you watch as it glances to the left and then glances to the right. You watch as a bit of tension leaves Esmeralda's shoulders, though she doesn't put the hand away from her rapier hilt. It doesn't seem to have actually taken attention of you.
Ulson will take a few quicker steps up until she is in earshot of Esmeralda and just whisper urgently, "Have you seen anything like this before?"
The undead? Certainly. But this one... the malevolence one often feels. Look at it. And you look as you watch as the hollow, dark holes of the skull beneath the visor just slowly turn from side to side. It's like it doesn't even notice us. Like it's searching for something.
Well, as long as it's not searching for us, let's get a move on then. Let it go.
Great. And as soon as the words come out of your mouth, the rider slowly lowers the lantern, nudges the horse with a bony knee, and the horse begins trudging its way off the trail down a muddy dirt path that leaves the main road behind, the mist wrapping behind them before they vanish into silhouette.
Esmeralda, We heard
Yeah?
a while back that the nature of places like this means that even if there's not somebody animating them, sometimes the dead just rise on their own. Is that true?
It's certainly possible. There's just quite a lot of necromantic energy to the land. It's I don't know. I'm not a seer, but I would imagine, from what I've heard, is that the Barovia seem to be quite unquiet. Not a lot of eternal rest going on in these mists.
Well, at least this one didn't want to hurt us. I'll take it.
Indeed. Well, shall we continue then?
Yeah.
Right. Let's get to move on. And she snaps the reins of the horses, which begin trotting faithfully forward.
I mean, I've heard talk that, if people die and they have souls, they just get trapped here. But you think that can happen to us too? That, wandering the forest like that? Not living, not dead?
Wilson very carefully does not react.
Yeah, probably. Honestly, the way Strahd seems to roll, if we die to him, then I imagine we'll be more of those little vampires he likes to make. So, I'd say the odds are good.
Well, if you're looking to ensure that the bloodsucker does not get you, well, it's a bit grim, but so long as he doesn't get the fangs in before you die, then there's not much he can do.
You'll forgive me if that's not terribly reassuring. I don't think there's much I can do to stop him if he really wanted to do that.
She gives you a look. There's a bit of a kind of somberness to it. Of course, I didn't mean to be a little bit macabre.
Nah, it's Barovia. This whole place is somebody's idea of a fun horror novel.
Fun's one way to put it.
Fun for the reader, I presume. Less fun for us bastards.
You tend to make your own fun in situations like this.
Got any suggestions?
Well, I was speaking more in general. I think Kiva has the right idea of it most of the time.
What's my idea of fun?
Facing down anything that tries to intimidate you as bravely as you can, with as much defiance as you can.
Oh yeah, I love that. A lot of fun.
Let's get to this reading so we can stop being fun for this piece of shit. I'm sick of being someone else's fun.
Seconded.
With that, you continue on forward through the dark trees, and before long, shortly after you pass a small clearing that looks out over the dark, reflective water of Lake Zarevich, you find the path bending away from it, meandering up and slowly out of the valley. Before long, the road begins to bend back around to a ridge that overlooks the deep basin below, where you can see the small town of Vallaki, the dark surface of Lake Zarevich, and the towering peak of Mount Baratok to the north. And as you continue forward, making your way to the southwest around the bending road upon the ridge, you catch a whiff of pipe smoke in the cold air and hear laughter through the fog.
Wait, does anyone else hear that?
Are we that close already?
I guess so.
You look
How long-
forward and
How long
Yep.
have we been riding for?
not longer than an hour.
Oh, so this is not what we think it is.
So if it's been that long, okay. Metreon, at some point, just riding along next to Esmeralda, as he's been prone to do throughout the afternoon, checking himself in the mirror. At some point, he checks the mirror and is taken aback when he sees himself in pink flesh again, and immediately recoils from Ez and pulls up his hood and tries his best to kind of hide from her.
All right, and as you do so, it seems that her attention is not fixed upon you, for she faces ahead in the mist as you watch 4 silhouettes, humanoid, begin making their way out of the fog toward you. And as Metreon falls hurriedly behind the rear of the caravan, the rest of you look ahead as 4 figures, 2 men and 2 women, scimitars at their sides, with what seems to be light crossbows strapped to their backs, wearing colorful clothing, olive-touched skin, and dark hair that falls in curls over their brows and the back of their necks emerge. As you recognize the dress of 4 Vistani. One of them at the lead kind of looks ahead and slows down. You see in his hand holding a wineskin, which he kind of tucks away to his side. The woman beside him kind of regards you. You see a bit of smoke emanating from a pipe that she carries in her right hand. The man waving a hand. Well, that is a bit of a surprise. Did not expect to see other travelers on the road today. Well met, friends.
Do we get the sense that this is an unfriendly group of people, or is it just they're actually polite conversationalists in Barovia?
It seems to be relatively polite conversation. You can make an insight check if you'd like.
Yeah, Kiva doesn't trust a goddamn thing.
Go for it.
That's an 11. I'm rolling real good today.
They seem to be, looking over them, not, hostile or, extraordinarily friendly, but, intrigued by finding, other travelers on the same road. You can see that one of them, a somewhat larger man with broader shoulders and kind of a brownish red vest, seems to have a number of small fauna. You see 2 brown furred hares and what seems to be like a small fox or something. Their carcasses kind of strapped to the side of his belt.
Yeah, so Kiva will just give like a polite nod and keep walking past them in the direction that they're going.
One of the women kind of glances over toward you. Well, it's not every day we see outsiders on these roads. I don't imagine you'll be looking for guides, my friends.
I think we're all set on that front, but thank you for your generous offer.
Well met then. We were on the misty roads, my friends. There be ghosts out there. And then she elbows her friend on the side and they begin laughing.
Earthrendeer just looks at them with not a hint of humor and says, "We know. We've met him."
Well, then, you should get along quite well. She turns to her companion. Now, Leiren, I think I was telling you, the Banshee of the old mill. Have we talked about that one yet? And they kind of begin kind of bantering. You get the sense that she's kind of spinning a bit of a ghost tale as they once more ignore you and begin stepping their way down the dark road in the opposite direction from you.
Once they're out of earshot, Lillison says, just sort of aloud in general, I wonder what will happen when they meet that skeleton on that horse we passed.
Skeleton was going the other way, right? And single rider, I imagine they won't catch up with him.
Depends what he does.
Point. But I hope if they've survived this long here, they'd have the sense to not antagonize undead unless they have to.
We are very quickly picking up what travelers' sense seems to consist of here.
Absolute crippling paranoia.
Trial by
Yes.
fire.
Something like that, yeah.
Or by wolves, or...
Yeah, we've done fire, we've done wolves, we've done blades, we've done twig things.
bats. Many bats.
Alarming number of bats. Really, what are we missing?
Handful of druids with sharp sticks.
We just need to deal with, I don't know, giants, elementals. Everything else rangers like to tick off, huh?
I should suppose that if there were any giants in this... Well, if Esmeralda's map was accurate, this very small plot of land, then we should have seen signs of their existence already.
Yeah, I'd certainly hope so. That is not really a problem we want. We've got quite enough with foes that are our size, thank you.
What about great big fuck off dragons? And she's gonna like spread her arms like wings.
I would also think that we would have seen signs of dragons here, but...
Nah, they can be pretty sneaky. They might have an underground lair or something. Actually, is there an Underdark beneath here? If this was... I mean, it's another plane, but like... Is there... Are there Barovian drow? Do we need to get
This
in touch with
feels
them?
about as underdark as you could possibly get.
You say that, but...
I mean,
Yeah,
look,
fair.
I've only been there once, but, you know.
Wait, you've been there?
She looks a little uncomfortable and just goes back to being silent.
Don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I'd love to hear the story, or...
Here's the thing. We get to Madam Eva and figure all that out, and we'll see how I feel about talking about stories.
I'll hold you to that.
We heard there was a ghost dragon.
Esmeralda glances toward you. Oh, so you heard that as well?
Well, but we heard it from the good doctor who was pretending to be Rictavio.
Oh,
So-
no, I can confirm. I've heard from a number of sources in Vallaki. It seems
Wait,
it's
yeah,
an
we
old mansion just a bit west of the town. Truth be told, I was thinking of checking it out myself before I met you.
We heard it from the toy maker.
Oh, you heard it from him as well?
Do you know, I guess, if you're thinking of checking it out, anything else about it?
Well, about the dragon itself, nothing that I can know of. I'm not exactly a dragon expert. But I had heard that, well, reportedly it's haunted. I can't share that myself. I'd have to take a look at it. But from what I've heard, it might harbor enemies of there, which maybe even contain some secrets to its destruction. Regardless of what Madam Eva says, I don't think it can hurt to check out any places where we might find additional bits of information.
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot today.
I think it will be extremely perilous and dangerous, but I want... If there is a ghost dragon and perhaps tools we could use against von Zarevich, I very much would like to know more.
And don't worry, I have quite an experienced pattern with so-called haunted mansions. You face half dozen of them, you get to have a bit of a reliable pattern of approach. You got to have your means of attack, you know.
Is it burn it down so you don't have to bother with it? Because that'd be my
Oh.
inclination.
But no, that tends to get the neighbors upset, tends to lower property values. But what you do first is, well, that's why I picked up that certain spell that I showed you the other day. You've got to do a bit of reconnaissance first. So, believe me, I'm well aware of the perils that such places might hold, but if you do things properly, with a bit of precautions up front, it's possible to get your way in and out without exposing yourself to too much risk.
Well, we'll defer to the expert then. And I'm glad you have that spell. I've wanted to try stuff like it, but components are expensive and we're not exactly a font of money.
Of course, I understand. It took me a bit of a while to track these down, but you got there in the end.
We better.
Esmeralda,
Wait.
have we told you recently that you are a perfectly invaluable friend?
I believe you've discussed some things, but I am once again flattered to hear it. I must say that in the short time that we've known one another, it seems that you are quite a bit, and please do not take this as an insult, you're quite a bit more reliable than I might have thought at first. It seems you've got an interesting set of specialities. I must say that, truth be told, when first I came to Bolivia, I wasn't quite sure how I would plan my own attack, but she kind of looks each of you up and down. I think together we might have a shot. And she shoots you a grin.
Well, we will do what we can to align all our strengths and compensate for each other's weak spots.
Indeed. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled. We'll uncover every rock that we can, and when the time is right, her hand kind of flashes, and you're not sure where she pulls it from, but when it pulls back, she's holding a long, wickedly sharp wooden stake. She grins again, flips it and catches it in her hand, and then stows it in her coat. I imagine we'll have a bit of a party time together.
Kiva looks like she's gonna faint.
In a good way, or?
In a good way.
Okay.
You continue on forward. Here, the old Svalich road transitions from a lazy trail hugging the mountainside back into a winding path that climbs into the Balanock Mountains. You can see to the east the walled town of Vallaki slowly beginning to sink in the mists of the valley, and to the right side of the road you can see a branch leading to a quiet promontory, the old windmill, its warped wooden vanes stripped bare. You watch as Esmeralda spares it a glance and then shudders, turning back to the horses. You continue on, leaving the windmill behind, and begin passing forward as the trail leads up into the mountain ridges and begins winding its way to the Balanock Mountains. Up over the ridges and the crags of the mountainous terrain, as before long you wend your way around the side of one of the larger peaks and come out once more into a dark, familiar wood. As you pass down the sides of the thicket and the underbrush, the familiar sounds of the horses' hooves clopping along the muddy passage of the old Svalich road. You hear a rustling in the upper branches of a tall, gaunt tree, just a bit of a ways ahead, overlooking the road.
Earthendeer draws his wand and points it upward. If one of y'all could tell me what that is before I blast it out of the sky, that would be nice.
Can we see what it is?
Kiva, you look upward, narrowing your eyes and gazing up into the dark shadows of the canopy, your elven sight piercing through the grimness. Looking upward, you can see tucked away in the canopy upon one of the sturdier branches of the twisted limbs of the Svalich wood, a gaunt figure with long, wild hair. At first glance, you can't tell its gender or even see much of its face, but you can see that it wears a tattered gown of stitched animal skins. The flesh of the face and torso are dark and cracked like bark, and as you look, you can see the legs themselves are deformed. Not human limbs, but bestial, wolf-like ones. The flesh raw and exposed, with open-air sores and rotting flesh crossing the limbs and thighs. Its watchful eyes, dark, bore down on you through the twisting shadows, silently.
Does it look like a threat? Because if so, Kiva's about to lose her shit, so...
It looks like it's watching you.
Okay, yeah. Kiva's just gonna look at Earthendeer and say, yeah, you can go ahead and blast that one out of the sky, please.
All right. Earthendeer has line of sight on this thing?
Yes, and as soon as you glance toward it, you raise your wand, it
Yep.
immediately scrambles and begins moving to drop itself down out of the branch. I will need everyone to roll initiative.
Oh, God.
All right.
Found
A
the
simple
drop bear.
roll in chat is fine.
Okay.
At least anyone who wishes to act may roll initiative.
Yeah,
Not the usual way, though.
Kiva's going to.
Simply a check for expedience. Okay. All right, so what did everyone get?
17.
17.
15.
Okay. And Earthendeer?
15.
15. All right. Kiva and Lillison, you're up first.
Kiva, do you not have more decks than that?
Oh, is it? Do I have to add something?
What's your dexterity
Yeah,
modifier?
yeah.
It's a
And
plus
then-
3.
All
So
right,
yeah, you
Kiva
go
goes
very
first.
Oh, I go very first. Amazing. Who boy? Let's see here. Ooh, this might be fun. One of the new things I can do. So I think Kiva's going to look at it and tell it to run away, and she is going to cast command.
Okay. Question: what are the components of the spell command? Like verbal, somatic?
Verbal.
Okay, very good. You listen as Kiva chants words of power, of magic, it seems, and then raises her hand and commands the creature.
So they have to make a DC 12 Wisdom saving throw, which they probably will because everyone rolls higher than me.
Immediately, as that exits your voice, you hear the sound of your command echo through the woods like a crack, like a whip of thunder. Your eyes flashing with a deep crimson red for an instant. And then the figure halfway through dropping out of the canopy stiffens. As it fails their saving throw.
Yay! So she's commanding it to flee. So it's going to spend its turn moving away from me by the fastest available means.
All right. Is that the end of your turn?
Yes, that is the end of my turn.
All right, Lillison, you're up.
Okay, would Lillison know whether harming somebody under a command would break that command?
I would say, well, first off, does it?
No.
Oh, nice.
Then I would say that is not a factor that Lillison needs to consider.
Okay. Is it within 60 feet of her?
Very much so.
All right, she's going to send an acid splash.
Okay.
Dex save, please.
16.
Okay. It saves. The acid whizzes harmlessly over its head.
Okay. With that, Amity and Earthendeer, you can tell that this creature, this entity, seems to be moving at about the same speed as you are, but Kiva's command seems to have thrown it off balance for a moment. The both of you have an instant to act.
Right. Earthendeer raises his wand and sends a mote of fire streaking towards this thing with a firebolt. But first, does he know what this is?
Glancing over it, it seems humanoid. Looking over the face, you can see the kind of like bark-like skin, and you recognize it's kind of similar to the magic you've seen the druids use at the Wizard of Wines, but the legs, you're not sure.
Okay, yeah, no, then fire.
All right.
13 to hit.
13. The one of the hands, bark-like and twisted, comes up and swats away the moat to the side of the tree.
Shit. Amity, you got
Amity,
this.
You have
And
a
he's going to
second.
give her Bardic Inspo.
Oh, thank you. Amity, though, is going to cast Vicious Mockery. Just a cantrip. It has to make a wisdom saving throw. As she says, hey, make like a tree and leaf.
So good that it rolled a 13.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then it takes 4 psychic damage. Oh, wait, did this cantrip get upgraded at level... Oh, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
It takes 4 plus 2 equals 6 psychic damage, and it'll have, disadvantage on any attack it makes next turn.
Okay, very good. With that, as its turn begins, it immediately turns, its eyes flashing red, as you watch as what seemed like red, almost like they look forged of some kind of liquid, almost like blood, chains lash across the sides of its arms and limbs, twisting it and binding it as it snarls, and then twisting like a marionette. Its rotting bestial limbs twisting beneath it, and then springing forward as it leaps to a lower branch, then onto another one to the ground, forcefully fleeing away from you, moving almost strangely, unnaturally quickly through the woods, somewhat faster than an ordinary human would. As you see its wolf-like legs speeding it forward through the undergrowth, as you watch, you actually see small slivers of mist swirling around its lower limbs as it does so. With a blink of an eye, it vanishes into the dark murk of the trees, leaving you alone on the road once more.
Kiva just looks absolutely stunned that actually worked. And just sort of like looks at her hands very confused.
First of all, what was that? Second of all, is it going to come back?
Tree creature tied to druidic magic, maybe.
Well, I told it to go away and then it did, so I don't know that it will, but it might. I think we should get going.
Yeah, that was... God, what was that? Alright. Come on, let's move. If we've got druid problems, then we don't need to be standing in one place.
Agreed. Let's keep moving. If nothing else, now we know that we've been seen.
With that, Esmeralda cracks the reins again, and the horses begin dutifully pulling the wagon forward once more through the trees. You pass in silence, wary and watchful and dark, looking out at the trees around you, looking for any sign of silhouettes or shadows skulking, watching or waiting in the darkness, beast or undead or human. Thankfully, only the mist swirls there in the darkness, in the distance, though sometimes it forms shapes that seem to crawl across the ground. You blink and it's only a cloud of fog, soft wisps forming gentle tendrils, harmless as they sprawl across the surface and wind through the roots of the trees. And before long, you come out once more into the grim gray light of the Barovian day as you find yourselves approaching a familiar pair of dark, tall stone gates. Ismark regards them. All right, the western gates. We're getting close to the crossroads again.
Yeah, I remember. I believe this is about where we broke off the tree. This is where we broke off the trail because there were wolves chasing us. Fun times.
Fun times indeed. Hopefully we won't find any other horse-sized wolves on the other side this time.
Or wolf-sized horses. Really, I just don't want to meet anything.
I agree. We'll keep an eye out then. And as you step forward with Ismark joining and the wagon continuing forth, the gates silently creak open, making way for your passage. As you pass below the carved weapons of the silent, headless guardians on the opposite side. It's not long before you leave them behind, the road continuing on forward, leaving behind the fog and the forest that dwells within it, the impenetrable woods and the buttresses of the stone wall, leaving the silent guardians, the dew-clad bars, as you follow the foggy dirt road ahead to a point where, familiarly, and in some cases unpleasantly, evoking and stirring dark memories, a place where it splits. You can see patches of cobblestone to the east, dark clouds looking over the mountains there, and as you watch a bolt of lightning flashes in the distant murk, you are reminded briefly of the specter of a carriage you once saw, dark, drawn by dark horses, making its way down that road, its master watching and laughing from within. Esmeralda eyes that path balefully for a moment. So, that's where the big guy lives, hmm?
This is where we met him, yeah.
Have you not seen it before?
Not up close. I've been through this area, but I'd not made my way to the castle proper yet. Thought I might do a bit of research first before doing so, see what I could find. But I have been this way, just to investigate a bit. But the castle itself, well, I wouldn't dream of going there without full preparation.
Well, let's do our preparation of our own before we even think about that. How about?
Agreed. Let's not dally here longer than we have to. She kind of shifts uncomfortably. Makes me feel like I'm being watched. Onward to Tser Pool, then. Continuing onward and leaving the old thoroughfare behind, you continue through the twisting peaks of the Balanok Mountains, following the dirt road to a familiar arching bridge of mold-encrusted stone that spans the natural chasm. You can see the weather-worn, frowning gargoyles, their backs cloaked in black moss perching on the corners of the bridge. You can see the waterfall, the Tser Falls, spilling into the misty pool nearly 1,000 feet below. As you watch, you can see the pool feeding a river that meanders into the fog-shrouded pines that blanket the valley. And as you follow the water, you see Esmeralda's gaze traveling to the east side of the bridge, where the river wends its way through the trees to the side of a larger pool, a small lake to the southeast. She squints at the mist and then raises a hand. There, I think you can see it. Can you all see?
Kiva just looks very hopeful and almost tries to walk faster just to get there as soon as possible, because this feels like might be the first bit of good news we'll have in a while.
You follow the pointing of her finger through the mist and fog, and just faintly you can see on the side of the river beneath the dark shadowed pines from the height of the mountain. It's difficult to see, but you can just faintly see a small smudge of several silhouettes and shapes just on the misty southern shores of the larger lake. I think that's what we're looking for. Tser Pool encampment. We should be there in, maybe 2 hours or so. We're making good time.
Wonderful.
2 hours is pretty long when we can just see it. But, yeah.
Perhaps, but unless any of you knows how to sprout wings, I think we might have to take the long way around the mountain.
Nah, haven't figured that spell out yet.
Very fair. Besides, I'm not sure I know how to get the wagon down there in that case, but, well, let's keep a move on then. The wagon continues forward once more, and from here you follow the road continuing forward, south, now as it climbs upward as it clings to the side of a mountain. You follow it, passing through the dark crags, the trees once more emerging as the forest swallows the road up for another half hour or so. It's not long, however, before you come out of it once again and begin climbing down the side of the Balanok Peak and begin descending once more a familiar dirt road toward a dark, lonely crossroads that you find all too familiar. You can see here the old wooden gallows, the River Ivlis crossroads creaking in the chill wind, the frayed length of rope still dancing from its beam. As you look, you can see the signpost just across the road from the gallows and the quiet, forgotten cemetery. Its arrows pointing in 3 directions. Barovia Village to the east, Ravenloft and Vallaki to the southwest, and Tser Pool to the northwest.
Earthendeer nervously glances around at both for spies and kind of at the gallows.
Yeah, Lillison is staring at the gallows and slowly reaches up and touches her own cheek for a moment.
Is the same dude still hanging here?
There does not appear to be any victim hanging from the gallows now.
Let's hurry past.
Do you continue forward?
Yep, let's hurry past.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Are we there yet?
Zooming ahead, leaving the crossroads behind,
10
you
minutes.
notice Ismark and Irina kind of glancing somewhat mournfully at the sign toward Barovia Village before falling back in with the rest of the group at the rear.
Kiva just gives Irina's shoulder like a friendly squeeze and get like a hopeful smile that, like, you know, one day we'll be able to go back.
Irina returns it. She gives you a nod, and then her gaze, determined, fixes her expression back on the road ahead.
Earthendeer gives a half glance at Amity. Pity we can't go back. I'd kill for another pie right now.
I'm sure we'll go back. Oh, you mean all of the way back?
Yeah.
It might be a safe place for us to be. I mean, relatively. But yeah.
Honestly, yeah. But yeah, no, that was a relatively nice evening out of the ones we've had.
I don't know where else we're going to stay tonight unless we can stay at the encampment.
Let's hope they're nice. Or if not, we can bribe or convince, bargain, cajole, lie, the usual suspects.
MD laughs. Shall we continue?
Yep, let's move.
Yep. Sweet.
You continue on down the northwest pass, leaving the signpost and the gallows behind as the mist swallows it up behind you. You continue on through the trees for another 5-10 minutes, but it's not long before the road gradually disappears and is replaced by a twisted, muddy path through the trees. Deep ruts in the earth are evidence of the comings and goings of wagons, and the canopy of mist and branches suddenly gives way to black clouds boiling far above. There is a clearing here, next to a river that widens to form a small lake several hundred feet across. 5 colorful round tents, each 10 feet in diameter, are pitched outside a ring of 4 barrel-topped wagons. A much larger tent stands near the shore of the lake, its sagging form lit from within. Near this tent, 8 unbridled horses drink from the river. The mournful strains of an accordion clash with the singing of several brightly clad figures around a bonfire. A footpath continues beyond this encampment, meandering north between the river and the forest's edge. As you approach, the wagon's wheels rattling over the dirt path, Esmeralda seems to be grinning despite herself. Looks like we've made it.
Look at the water. It's gorgeous.
Are you thinking of taking another swimming trip then?
This one where I don't have to pull someone from drowning sounds a lot more enjoyable. I was in the water for like 15 seconds last time. Yeah, and y'all are welcome to join me, you know.
Perhaps afterwards.
Yeah, no, I'm not just jumping right in there. I'm not that insatiable. He does look a little tempted.
I would love to go swimming afterwards. But I freaking reading before the episode.
Afterward, yes, we know.
You don't want to put it off for another like 5 episodes, y'all?
Oh, a good point. Good idea.
You know what? Forward.
5-minute swimming session. 5 minutes in and out.
Yeah, we'll like do a half-hour long beach episode, and then we'll get out of here.
Continuing on, it's not long before the figures around the fire come into view. You count 12 Vistani standing and sitting around the fire. Some of them with wineskins in hand, others joking and speaking and laughing with the others. One of them holding an accordion while others dance around. One woman of middle age spots you arriving and stands up and begins making her way away from the fire toward you. Visitors! It is not often that we expect others here, but you are quite welcome. I hope that you travel the roads well, my friends. Please, would you like to join us around the fire? We have plenty of wine for all. You are welcome to join.
Kiva looks at Metreon and just gives him like just such a happy look at the mention of wine enough to share.
Metreon has been at the back of the party the whole time, and he looks at you, but you see that his hood is like covering over down his face. But when he hears you, kind of from under the hood, yeah, that sounds great. I'll be up there in a minute.
Kiva gives a worrying look back there, but decides to just let him be for a moment.
Lillison steps forward, sort of putting on her party face. We have had a surprisingly easy journey, and made all the more easier by the warm welcome you're offering us. Is there anything that we can offer you in return for your hospitality?
Not at all, please, my friends. Come, take a seat by our fire. We are glad to play host to those that walk the roads with us, please.
You are most kind.
Yeah, thank you. Amity says, and offers a real friendly old handshake.
The woman regards it with a bit of amusement and then takes it rather jovially. Indeed, well met. Well, come now, friends. We are glad to share the warmth of our fire with you, unless I assume you have time to stay?
We do. We actually have a bit of business here.
Ah, I had supposed as much. Well, it was fated that you would visit our humble cap after all. I should not be surprised.
Earthendeer cocks his head. He's trying to tell if she's being nice or if there was actual prescience involved.
She grins. Well, if you I would not want to hurry your business. After all, Madam Eva did foretell your coming. She awaits you. She nods toward the largest tent.
Then we'll be out with you a bit later then, and thank you for the hospitality. He kind of gives an incredulous look at the others.
She bows with a flourish. Indeed. Of course, I would not hesitate to keep you then. Or I would hesitate to keep you, forgive me. But should you wish to join us afterwards, well, the fire has room for more, my friends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But of course. And she returns to her compatriots around the fire.
All right, gang. Let's go see the future. Or be massively ripped off, one of the two.
Yeah, I guess we'll head towards the tent.
Either way, it's not as if we lose anything.
I believe there's going to be at least some fortune telling there.
If nothing else, we have gained a warm place to stay tonight.
Yeah, no, that's no small thing. Yeah, tent.
Esmeralda dismounts the seat of the wagon, whispers a word to the horses that then vanish. All right, then. Ready when you are.
We go.
Continue on forward, leaving the circle of wagons and tents behind and passing closer to the shores of the running river that passes its way into the lake. You can see the larger tent covered with colorful fabrics and draped with almost tapestry quality of pieces that frame the interior. You duck beneath the hanging canvas opening, passing beneath into the space beyond. There, the noises from outside slowly fade as you see the interior and are met by the occupant. Passing within, you see magic flames cast a reddish glow over the interior of this tent, revealing a low table covered in black velvet cloth. Glints of light seem to flash from a crystal ball on the table as a hunched figure peers into its depths. As the crone speaks, her voice crackles like dry weeds. "At last you have arrived!" Cackling laughter bursts like mad lightning from her withered lips.
Are you Madam Eva?
That depends, my dear.
On what?
On whether you're Oriana Elvin,
Amity sort of turns to her companions a little bit excited. She knows my name.
I do.
I am.
Well met then, tale teller, soul speaker, bringer of amity. Well met to my tent.
Amity sort of hops in.
She turns as each of you kind of fold yourselves into the tent, the dark, cramped space. She nods toward Kiva.
And you, Kiva Siralai, survivor of Shadow's scars and wielder of Fairy's fury, well met to you as well, my dear.
Kiva looks a little unsettled, but like sort of half curtsy, bows politely, and just thank you, Madam Eva. It's a pleasure.
Indeed.
She turns toward Erthrindir.
And Erthrindir Iariel, forsaken of the inner sea and scholar of the old songs, oh yes, I've been waiting for you as well.
Yeah, how? I don't do them justice, but I try.
Justice is all we can attempt in this world. And as for you, she turns, Punch, or shall I say Metreon, as you may prefer, false magician, bolt thrower, vassal of the undying king, you are welcome in my tent this day.
What?
Metreon looks up and his skin has returned to that kind of olive color. But he looks up at her and looks shell-shocked when she mentions that last part. Yeah, what?
Indeed. And of course,
She turns.
Lillison Winterstar, the silver-tongued, the poison-scaled, oh, and touched by the mists. Welcome to my humble tent, dearie.
Lillison's face is contorted in anger for a moment. And then she takes a deep breath and says, I had thought that perhaps you simply had many ears among these woods, but that
I see is not the case. Thank you for your welcome, all-seeing one.
Of course, my dear, it is a pleasure to have you. Mother Night whispers many things of your trials, of your journeys. But then again, perhaps that is why you have come. Perhaps you have come to have your fortunes read, yes?
We need to. We gotta know. We gotta know if we even have a chance.
Well, that myself I cannot answer, but perhaps, and with a flourish of her hand, there is a worn deck of cards in her palm. The Tarokka can shed light on the shadows that lay in your paths.
Her old hands working deftly. The old crone removes 14 cards from the top of the deck, setting them aside. The remaining cards she shuffles nimbly, twice, 3 times, 4. She regards you calmly with her dark, quiet eyes.
You will have to forgive me. The practice of communing is long and can be difficult. Stay to the light, and do not breach the silence until the sight has spoken. Do you understand, my dears?
Amity does a little zipper thing over her mouth and Truffle's mouth and nods.
Good.
Then, and she sets both the decks upon the surface of the velvet table.
Let us begin.
Closing her eyes, she places her right hand over the surface of the larger deck. The crimson flames dim and swirl in eldritch patterns as her lips move silently, a distant tension spreading through the air. The sounds of the rustling trees and rippling pool beyond the tense walls begin to dim, the external world growing mute and insubstantial as the space within grows more solid, somehow more real. Slowly, reverently, the crone draws 3 cards from the top of the deck, laying them face down separately on the table, with a second laid between and above its partners. She then moves to the smaller deck, drawing 2 more cards. The first she places below the first 3, forming a cross. The second she places in the center. The lights of the candles sway like silhouettes, leaning in toward the cards like anxious watchers. Yet the air in the tent is perfectly still. No light intrudes through the seams in the tent's walls. No voice rings out in the silence. Shadows and mist swirl at the boundaries of the tent where the darkness of deepest night dwells, but here, at its center, where you stand, light yet reigns. The crone then moves her wrinkled hand to the leftmost card, the first. She closes her eyes and tilts her head, as if listening to an unspoken word. The arcane lights swirl and then shift, their colors changing to a deep, piercing blue.
This card tells of history. Knowledge of the ancient will help you better understand your enemy.
And she flips the card. The cerulean light dances across its surface, revealing an illustration of a squat man in a cleric's robe and hat, his head illuminated by a halo. His hand is raised, his fingers curled like a shepherd's crook.
The master of glyphs, the priest.
Her dark pupils shift from side to side as though reading from an unseen text.
You will find what you seek in the castle, amid the ruins of a place of supplication.
She moves her hand to the second card, this one at the top of the cross. As she closes her eyes and listens once more, the candlelight flares, its color bursting into a fierce, cheery yellow.
This card tells of a powerful force for good and protection, a holy symbol of great hope.
She flips the card. This time, the light reveals a new illustration. A bearded man beside an anvil wearing a workman's apron. In his right hand, he holds a hammer. In his left, he flips a gleaming coin.
The 5 of coins, the guild member.
Her eyes stare deep into the shadows that lurk in the corners of the tent.
I see a dark room full of bottles. It is the tomb of a guild member.
She moves her hand to the third card at the right arm of the cross, her eyelids closing like a trance, her lips pursed in quiet contemplation. The candlelight vanishes for a heartbeat, and then returns in a nova of fierce, burning white, so pure and strong and clean that it hurts to look at, burns to see. Madam Eva's eyes snap open, burning with a fierce determination.
This is a card of power and strength. It tells of a weapon of vengeance, a sword of sunlight.
And she flips the card. The light reveals a third illustration. A woman clad in a mystic's hood, flanked by dark candles that burn with smoke and incense. Her hand is outstretched, her palm facing an unconscious man beneath her, lying upon a bed, his forehead pierced by 3 needles.
The 3 of glyphs, the healer.
The crone's voice is strong with purpose.
Look to the west. Find a pool blessed by the light of the white sun.
She moves to the 4th card, at the bottom of the cross, and listens once more, tracing small circles across its back as she hums a contemplative note. The magic flames leap and dance upon their wicks, now casting swirling violet embers into the air, as the walls of the tent gleam with the shimmer of twilight.
This card says sheds light on one who will help you greatly in the battle against darkness.
She flips the card. This time, the illustration revealed is not a man, but a beast. A black-winged raven perches atop a branch, its head circled by the white light of the full moon. Beside it rests a lonely gravestone, encircled by shadow.
The Queen of Clubs, the Raven.
Madam Eva leans forward.
Find the leader of the feathered ones who live among the vines. Though old, he has one more fight left in him.
Finally, she moves her hand to the 5th card and nearly recoils, her brow furrowing until the wrinkles split her forehead like a trench. Behind her, shadows encircle the candlelight until the light itself is very nearly swallowed by the creeping dark. When next she speaks, Madam Eva's rasping voice is scarce above a whisper.
Your enemy is a creature of darkness, whose powers are beyond mortality. This card will lead you to him.
Her hand trembles above the card for a silent moment, and then deft, ancient fingers reveal its opposite side. In the darkness, the 5th and final illustration is only barely visible through the smoke and unnatural murk. Upon the card's surface dwells a depiction of a strange eldritch bell jar, stood upon a table and sealed to hold a strange gray liquid. Beyond the glass, suspended in the muck, floats a human skull with a dark, hollow gaze, its scalp carved with sigils of profane arcanum. Madam Eva slowly exhales.
The first Joker, the artifact. He lurks in the darkness where the morning light once shone, a sacred place.
And as the last syllable passes her lips, the old woman freezes and then rocks back in her chair, her eyes rolling until their whites gleam like pearls in the darkness. And then she snaps back, the candlelight burning down to its ordinary crimson glow. The sound of the outside world returns, the voices of the Vistani, the crackling of the bonfire, the whisper of the wind, and the lapping of the waves against the shores of the pool. Light, gray and insubstantial, filters in once more through the canvas walls of the tent, and you feel yourselves breathe for the first time since the reading began. Madam Eva says nothing. She only regards you silently, with dark, patient eyes. And that is where we will end it for today.
Oh man.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Oh
You are
boy.
certainly not
Holy
making it easy
shit.
for us.
Just, yeah, no, hard mode, why not?
I got my wish, but at what cost?
At
Why
what
did
cost?
you wish for
I
this?
blame you for all of this.
I don't actually know two of these, so
We will not spoil them.
Okay, cool.
Those Foundry mechanics to get this reading so good.
Yeah. Retroactively, big fucking shout out to Linus for animating the flipping cards, and to Jack for creating that beautiful Madam Eva table display background. 10 out of 10, you guys.
It came out so well.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Holy shit.
That was really cool how you did all the ambience with the lights and stuff. Oh man.
Well, thank you as well to Harrison, who is not here at the moment, for helping me set up Foundry. But
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you,
We
Harrison.
will-
We love you.
Thank you, Harrison.
oh, and there was some discussion of this, but welcome to level 7, kids.
Yes!
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Wait, what?
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 Yes.
We haven't done anything. What?
We did
We
everything.
have not.
Stones, y'all are buzz killers, man. Take the level.
No!
Everything.
Look,
Yeah,
I-
okay.
Yep.
Look,
You
Madam
and I will be
Eva.
level
why?
7. Y'all can be level 5. It's fine.
Madam Eva
Exactly. Y'all
dropped.
can stay.
Madam Eva dropped Lillison's actual last name. We all deserve level 7.
Okay, point taken.
Do we get a level for each last name? Oh, okay.
I can come up with
God.
more if it works like that.
Yeah,
Yep.
I went so we have to subtract a level though. So
Man,
Well,
we are
regardless.
not gonna.
So much
get-
to talk about in After Dark.
Yes.
This
Jesus H. Christ.
Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific.
Guys,
Twitch.tv/OurCurseOfStrahd.
put your questions in our question post on the subreddit or email them. We love to hear from you guys, so please get those fun little questions in.
I have relinked the place where you can post your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaya.
Oh dear. If we are whatever level Metreon declares we are hot on 1 to 10, then
Uh-oh.
That sounds
I don't know.
terrifying.
several of us are doomed.
I'm not ready to go back to 3.
Mhm. Well, regardless, this has been a fun time. So, as always, thank you to everyone for joining us today. We will see you all back in the mists next week. Until then, take caution not to peer too deeply into the future. Do join us for Twice Bitten After Dark on Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/OurCurseOfStrahd. And until next time, take care.